Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have one returning guest and one new one together. Ron Meyer, we had on, I think, a couple years ago to talk about his documentary, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. Tonight, we have Ron on again with his co-author, Mark Reeder, to talk about their book from that, connected to that documentary, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. We're going to be talking about what is the connection between Bigfoot and aliens. I know some of you people out there might be shaking your heads, there's no connection, right? We've talked about it a lot on this show. There's a mystery that surrounds Bigfoot, Dogman, even Chupacabra to, New Jersey Devil, these Mothman, weird parallel events that happen around them, or UFO events around them. That there's somehow some kind of connection. And this is why I call the show Paranormal Soup, is I feel there is some kind of connection between all these things, even ghosts and, paranormal non-human entities and interdimensional and all that stuff. There is a weird soupiness to the unusual world around us we don't understand. And open your minds to the idea. We're going to just be asking the questions. Not that we have them or Ron or Mark have them, but we know there's something going on. If this reality isn't what everybody says it is, and they've gone and explored. We're going to talk about in their book tonight. There's 9, what do you want to call, like Skinwalker Ranch portal hotspot zones they went and investigated. And it's a really great book if you're interested in this subject. Definitely want to check out Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. And we will take your phone calls later in the show. We're running late, so let's go ahead and get rolling on into it. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Our guest tonight, I know they're in the waiting room right now. Their interview will start after our news event, after the World Wide Web of Weird, after our first commercial break. But joining us tonight are Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder, authors of The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. And like I said, we will take your phone calls on that subject later in the show, too. Joining me tonight, not joining me tonight, is Jamie D. She couldn't make it tonight. When last week we had Jamie, but we didn't have Rob. Rob's been having some health issues. But guess what? We got the man himself from the Weird Wednesday show, Rob Autry. He's alive.
I'm back.
I'm glad to have you here. I got to watch some of Weird Wednesday in bed Wednesday night, and I was like, man, I think your whole show was like almost a weird World Wide Web of Weird. You had a lot of stuff, and I'm like, I still got to cover some of these stuff in the World Wide Web of Weird because it's stuff going around. But if you guys haven't seen it, Rob and Jamie do a show on Wednesday nights, Weird Wednesday, 11 p.m. Central, correct? Right?
Eastern.
Yeah, or Eastern, 11 p.m. Central. Yep, Central. 12 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. Check it out. It's like the weird. We got like 25 minutes of weirdness for the beginning of the show. They have like a whole long section of it. Mine are more guest oriented. So if you enjoyed like the World Wide Web of Weird, you'll definitely enjoy Weird Wednesday. Speaking of that, we got a lot to get to. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start out with Florida Man, Florida Man. Yes, we got a Florida Man story. And yes, this was on Weird Wednesday because, Rob, he is the savant of Florida Man since he is a Florida Man. And he talked about it, and we'll definitely want to get his opinion on this. But Florida Man arrested while trying to warn Space Force about aliens versus dragons. Yes, you heard that right. Aliens versus dragons. My kids love the title of the movie. They can't wait till it comes out. For those listening on the Paranormal Soup radio network on the Paranormal Talkstream radio app, we are a webcast. You can come watch us on YouTube, Facebook, or even Twitch. But I'll narrate as best as possible. Like I said here, we had to start out with this Florida Man. So, Rob, you covered this on Weird Wednesday. What's your insight on Florida Man here? Allegedly drove his stolen. It's always a stolen car. It's never their own truck to a Space Force base to warn of aliens fighting dragons.
Okay, then.
What?
Drugs are bad.
Yeah, we know. Authorities in Florida. Well, go ahead.
I did witness a thing in Crystalberger at like 3 o'clock in the morning one time where a guy was sitting there and he was telling me he was watching all the dragons outside. So, hey.
They know.
They do.
They know, Rob.
Yep.
They know about the dragons.
Only in Florida.
In Florida. Authorities in Florida arrested a man for allegedly driving a stolen truck to the United States Space Force base in an ill-advised mission to warn the government about aliens. The very strange case reportedly unfolded on Friday afternoon when cops encountered Corey Johnson as he was attempting to enter Patrick Space Force Base in the state Brevard County. While being questioned by police, the young man offered a truly... He doesn't look young in that picture, man. Young man offered... This is by Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast. The young man offered a truly fantastic explanation for his presence outside the facility. According to an arrest warrant, Johnson revealed to police that he had actually stolen the truck that he was driving after... And they're like, really?
What a stretch.
He goes, the President of the United States told him in his head he needed to take to the vehicle. I don't think the President of the United States even hears his own thoughts right in his head, let alone he's projecting them into other people. But okay. But that was merely the first part of the telepathic directive, as the man claims, Florida Man, that he was instructed to drive to Patrick Space Force Base and to warn personnel there about a clandestine war waged between U.S. aliens and Chinese dragons. At last, it would seem that Johnson never got past the gate at the base as police promptly arrested him for grand theft auto. Aww. While the man was unable to directly speak to any Space Force officials about the interstellar battle that he believes is unfolding in our skies, one assumes that his commotion outside the facility ultimately led to his message being delivered. Yeah, I think they got the message. They'll get on those dragons right away, man.
Well, with today's technology, he could have saved a lot of time and energy and being an email. Or, just pick up the phone. Something.
Make a TikTok video. I don't know. I don't know. There's some stuff behind this, like this whole his psychosis. I don't know. Maybe not. Might not. I'm not going to say it is because you talk about the dragon families of China and we talk about the reptilians and the dragon lore that's all over the world. It might be something to it.
Yeah, he might know something we don't. So
sometimes the crazy are onto something, or this guy's just
Yeah.
Drugs are bad.
Okay, moving on. Yeah. All right, this is another one I had on Weird Wednesday I thought was interesting, too. Dr. Mohammed Salma had been putting his bins out. It's garbage because this is in England, right? When he spotted two objects moving erratically in the sky. The mysterious orbs of light were captured on camera over the Harborne area of Birmingham at around 10:30 p.m. on Sunday night. The clips last around 38 seconds and show the objects moving rapidly in varying directions, zipping one way and then another, with one moving off out of the frame at high speed. I've never seen anything like it before, said Dr. Salma. I don't think it was a plane, drone, laser, or star because of how fast it moved and the way it maneuvered in different directions. It was high above the clouds and seemed to shoot to the horizon in a matter of seconds. It was rather incredible, really. The brightness of them was quite remarkable, too, and that was something else which made me think this could be a UFO. I've never believed in them until now. It was such a strange experience, and I really think this could be a UFO. And, kudos to him being a doctor and somebody never had this experience before, just taking his garbage out, sees this. Kudos to him, for pulling out his phone and filming it as much as he possibly can. And yes, it's blurry and it's not the greatest footage, and we'll look at it in a minute. But kudos to him for coming out, putting his name behind it, and testimony. So we have Providence. We know where he was, when he took it. It's real. It's not just some TikTok video, YouTube video rambling out there. Somebody caught a video, UFO, and put his name behind it. Good for him. And big kudos. Go ahead and play it. like I said, it's really grainy. You know, it's a cell phone at night. It's lucky we see anything, but these are weird. And if he's seeing it with his eyes, I don't think it's a bird.
No.
If he's, the only question I have is this something you notice? He obviously had to seen it with his eyes to go, oh, I need to film this.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's a bird, and it's just the way it's refracting in the night's, maybe the sun setting sky. I don't know. I think it's something that he would be able to tell with his eyes if it was a bird. And this definitely looks unusual. It's way up there. I mean, it's past the clouds. And it's self-illuminating, so it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
But like I said, big kudos to him for putting his name behind it, coming out, and releasing the footage. We need more of that. All right, next up we got some ghostly stuff. I think this one's also from England, if I remember right. Ghost hunters photograph eerie figure in derelict church. Paranormal investigators have captured an image of a mysterious figure in the abandoned church of Cornwall. Known as Pengingers Paranormal Pansy, the group, which consists of Mark Earl, William Ives, and Ollie Earl, had been doing a live stream investigation at St. Dave's Church near Redruth last December when some of their viewers noticed something unusual in one of the windows. The building itself is derelict, and the upstairs floor is missing entirely, meaning there's no way there should have been anyone up there. So there's no floor for somebody to stand on. Rob's showing the photo now for those listening. There's no inside of the church. It's all been stripped out. As we were walking down on the live stream, you can see the outlines of the girl in the window. Our viewers said the same, that it is a little girl. It's shaking us up a bit. We are not the type to make things up. We'll say it's nothing if we investigate something, and it's nothing. The mysterious figure, which seems to be dressed in white, appears quite clearly in the. I disagree with it quite clearly. I mean, yes, this is from the Unexplained Mysteries site and not the original photocopy of it or anything like that. Maybe the clear picture of it is clear. Go ahead and zoom in on it again. But I wouldn't say it's clear to us, at least. It does look like a woman there. You go up a little more up in the picture. There you go. Like you can see her head, hair, white dress, but. Is that pareidolia? Is there something else in that window? We need to see a secondary picture to kind of confirm. If that isn't something else. I don't know. Yeah. Well, like you said, there shouldn't be anything standing up there. You wouldn't think there'd be anything in the picture. But, they're shocked or amazed. Well, this is what you do it for.
Yeah.
I would see this, be excited. I'd be excited. I wouldn't be unnerved. I'd be excited. We'll take more pictures.
It kind of looks like two little girls standing there with an adult.
Yeah, behind. I remember you said you saw two little girls. I see one. See?
Yeah.
That's why it's just a bunch of blobby images in all reality that our brains are trying to go, what is that?
Yeah.
Pareidolia. I don't know. Is it something? I don't know. It's not clear, as the article says. I love it when they say a clear picture of a ghost, a clear picture of a UFO, a clear picture of a Bigfoot. It's not. Yeah. No, that's not usually. And if it is, it's usually fake. I'm just saying, not trying to be skeptical. I believe in this. I've seen great photos on this show, on other people's, and I don't know. I would, it's interesting. From a distance, when you back up, you do really see the outline of one. Yeah. I know you still see two. I don't know. Tomato. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We're going to run out of time here. Not on paranormal, but scary to me, because I'm one of those people that saw the documentary on 2020, or not, like a 2020 episode of people who got hiccups for the rest of their life, and I'm not a hypochondriac at all, but totally made me paranoid every time I get hiccups. Think of that, I'm gonna get stuck with hiccups for the rest of my life. What if there's something? I never knew there could be something worse than that. I don't know. Would it be worse to have stuck with hiccups for the rest of your life, or can't stop farting for 5 years, at least 5 years? One man claims he ate a ham sandwich from a restaurant and he couldn't stop farting for 5 years, and now he's suing the American way. Tyrone Parades is taking legal action after a sandwich he ate 5 years ago left him with a never-ending bout of flatulence. The bizarre situation began when a 46-year-old who hails from Chippenham, England, not so chipper ham sandwich, right? Purchased and ate an unassuming ham sandwich at a Christmas market at Birmingham in December 2017. Not long afterwards, however, he became quite ill and ended up having to spend weeks in bed. Even after recovering, he continued to experience excessive flatulence, and even now, 5 years later, this particular symptom has continued unabated. Now, Parades, is he saying his name? Parades? I don't know. Is suing the market for nearly $250,000. The claimant continues to suffer. Well, we're what, like 6 years old right now. The claim he
Yes.
continues to suffer from excessive flattishness, which causes him a great deal of embarrassment. His lawyer said the symptoms are primarily fatigue and altered bowel function associated with churning within his abdomen and flatulence. I honestly, I don't know. Would you want hiccups or this for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, hiccups I hate, and maybe it's my paranoid of having them for the rest of my life. Every time I get hiccups, I think of that. What was it, like a 2020 special or 60 minutes special? They did it all, but I think about it every time, and it's like torture for me until the hiccups go away.
Yeah. I'd probably go with parts.
I don't know.
They could be funny, you know.
The market has since denied allegations that the ham had been contaminated with salmonella. Whether Paredes, I don't see his name, will be successful in this case against the firm, however, remains to be seen. I doubt he will be. I don't know how he proves it, you know, especially 5 years ago. And I mean, they're gonna pull up some medical experts there to talk about flagellants. That's gonna be great.
Yeah. Hey, Doc,
can we televise this?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much more rather see this than the Johnny Depp Amber Heard.
Oh yeah.
Trial. Come on, just to see them talk about flatulence. Okay, yeah. I know. I'm like 6. I'm a 6-year-old. What's flatulence? My 10-year-old actually. No, I should ask that too. Like farting. Yeah. Look it up, kid. Dictionary. Okay, where are we at? Oh, here we go. Speaking of kids, they're so cute. I guess AI doesn't think so. Chinese robot breaks boy's finger during a chess tournament. Yeah, you heard that right. The AI, they're taking our kids out first. Bizarre accident occurred while the robot was playing a game of chess against a 7-year-old opponent. I guess the kid was beating him and just didn't like it, right? Yeah. With AI chess players and autonomous robots playing an ever-increasing role during tournaments, it was inevitable that something would go wrong sooner or later. Like I've always said about AI and robots, right? Sadly, the prediction came true in a disturbing fashion during the recent Moscow Open when a chess-playing robot grabbed the fingers of its unsuspecting 7-year-old opponent. Unable to release himself from the robot's grasp, the boy was able to attract the attention of 2 nearby men who rushed over and attempted to force the robot to let go. They eventually managed to release the boy. However, it turned out that the robot's grip had broken his finger. According to Sergey, I mean, and it's just chess pieces. You wouldn't think it'd have to be that strong to grab it, but it's Russian. You know, according to Sergey. Yeah, just the beginning of the AI, man, taking over. The vice president of the Russian Chess Federation, the problem had occurred because the boy had moved too quickly after the robot had taken one of his pieces. Oh, no, you too quick. Robot punish you. The robot did not like such a hurry. Is it the AI learning? It does not like little boys grabbing chess pieces too quick. Mm-hmm. He grabbed the boy's index finger and squeezed it hard. The people around rushed to help and pulled out the finger of the young player, but the fracture could not be avoided. Oh, it's a boy's fault. That's what the Russian chess master's saying. The video on This is Unexplained Mysteries you can watch. The boy looks scared as heck. One of those things is totally like trying to rip off his finger.
Oh, that thing would scare me if it's breaking my fingers. You know, it's like
it comes from the same country that's handing guns to robots. Remember the Russian robot? They were doing the total RoboCop.
You know how it's going to end.
Perfect aim. Yeah, we know how it's going to end. I've seen that movie.
They're paving the picture for you right here.
Yep. I think the AI is let us know its intent. It's going to start with our children first. All those little chess tournament kids are going to just take them out.
Take out the weak first.
Yep. All right. This I thought was interesting. I've seen a lot of people sharing this, and mysterious holes discovered on the ocean floor. I got this from Unexplained Mysteries because I had the shorter article. The NOAA has appealed to the public for help explaining the presence of a line of holes at the bottom of the sea. The unidentified holes, which appear in a straight line and are intriguingly consistent in size and shape, were found at 2,660 meters down by scientists at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration during their voyage to the Ridge 2022 expedition to the mid-Atlantic. As scenes stand, nobody seems to know who or what created these holes or why. The mystery has prompted the NOAA to appeal to the public for assistance. According to according to Facebookers, I didn't know that was a thing. Time to get out those scientists' hats, the Facebook post read. On Saturday, Okino's Dive, we observed several of these sublinear sets of holes in the sediment. These holes have been previously reported from the region, but their origin remains a mystery. While they look almost human-made, the little piles of sediment around the holes make them seem like they were excavated by something. What's your hypothesis, they ask. And, comments prevailed on aliens, I'm sure came up in those comments, or all kinds of stuff. I don't know. I don't like holes in the ocean floor. Like I see that as a diver, I'm like, get out! The burbles come. There's something here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Figure something coming out of it. I don't. I fear the underwater. I would not be able to do what they're doing. But what would make that down there? My guess is there. I mean, could be some kind of animal life. I mean, it's like the holes in my. I know what makes the holes in my yard. I know what makes those holes. It's freaking mole, and it's got to die. Needs to die. But maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But it's pretty straight line. I mean, I don't know. Nature can be weird that way, I guess.
Yeah, it could be.
But it's interesting that they're reaching out to the public, that they don't have an answer for it.
We don't know what the hell this is, so...
Look into it. Public and Facebookers tell us. Like, Facebook knows. Facebook doesn't know jack, what.
Yeah.
And asking the public, I'm like, okay, all right, well, what's going on here? Or they're just trying to get attention and funding. I don't know. But it is interesting. It is really weird. What
I mean, if it's just random holes, I would say some sort of crab or something. But it is weird.
It's a straight line.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that there's this like sediment. So that means that means that's that sand. You can, I don't know if you can zoom into it. It's like a slightly color. So that means something's coming out, right? Is that what that means? Like something's coming out of it.
Yeah.
Or into it. Maybe it pulled in and out. I don't know.
It was dug, and the sand sand was dug out of the hole.
Yeah.
Piled up around it. Yeah.
I just picture creepy snaky things coming out of it. I don't know. I just like snaky spiky snakes. All right, let's move on to the last article for time. Okay. All right, we're talking about tonight with our guests, Ronald Meyer and Mark Reeder, about Bigfoot, alien connection, and we'll get into all their stuff, I'm sure, like Dogmen and all that great stuff. But, one thing we don't cover a lot is Loch Ness on this show. We have a little bit. But I found this last article to be interesting because, I've heard shows mention that, in plausibility, can it be the plesiosaurus, whatever it is that they always say, people think it is, because it's a saltwater. It's not freshwater. And now, this is a shorter article from Unexplained Mysteries here. Loch Ness Monster, plausible after fossil discovery. Discovery that some plesiosauruses, I'm sure my son would be like, you said it wrong, could have lived in freshwater has reignited the debate on Nessie. The quintessential Loch Ness Monster sighting is typically that of a large, long-necked creature that appears as a head and neck or a series of humps protruding from the water. Over the years, this has led some to speculate that the creature could be a plesiosaur, a type of prehistoric aquatic reptile, depicted by off-photograph model that can be found outside the Loch Ness Expedition Center. Well, of course, I have the wrong article up, but there's like a skeleton of it. While many have played down the possibility, not least because the plesiosaurus died out millions of years ago and lived in the ocean, a new fossil discovery has recently added some renewed credence to the theory by suggesting that some plesiosaurus actually did live in fresh water. Researchers at the University of Bath, right? It's a Bath, right? Recently discovered the fossil remains of several small plesiosaurs that lived in a river system 100 million years ago in what is now the Sahara Desert. Well, they definitely didn't survive there, right? The find indicates that these creatures lived in freshwater alongside crocodiles, fish, turtles, and dozens of other species. We don't really know why the plesiosaur are in freshwater, said the study's co-author, Dr. Nick Longrich. It's a bit controversial, but who's to say that because we paleontologists have always called them marine reptiles, they had to live in the sea. Lots of marine lineages invaded fresh water, but does this mean that the Loch Ness Monster could be a plesiosaur? That's the question, right? Probably not, but it certainly does prove that it isn't. That's the end of the article. My thing on it is, we don't know. I mean, we're just finding bones from millions of years ago, and that's just what got fossilized. We don't know the things that didn't get fossilized, what they were, existed, and we have no idea. We can make clues and guesses and that. I always thought it was presumptuous to say, well, the plesiosaur was a marine animal. It was not. I always thought that was such presumption. I'm like, really? How do you know? It's millions of years ago. Do we really know?
And I know a lot of those, prehistoric animals are, quite adaptive. I mean, they could be both, easily.
Life finds a way. If I
Yes.
had that that Jurassic Park quote. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight's guest, hopefully we get them on. I know we got one of them on in the waiting room. The other one was having issues. Hopefully we'll get them on after this commercial break. But Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder are the authors of The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. And this is a subject we've talked about quite a bit with different guests. Is there a connection between Bigfoot and aliens? Are they interdimensional? All those wonderful questions about Bigfoot. I know there's some people in the Bigfoot community that totally disagree. They are totally biological creatures out there, and I get that argument. And I do see Ron Meyer in the waiting room, so we do have both the guests here. Hopefully everything runs good. We'll be back after the short commercial break.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It is called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Certificate A. Now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The international chart-topping, Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
This is the sound of a space clock aboard a U.S. satellite 180 miles above the Earth. No one winds up this timepiece. It's powered by a tiny battery, a battery that delivers power for years without replacement. Now the same type of battery, the Duracell battery, can bring new reliability and long life to your battery-operated equipment. Radios, cameras, toys, all run far longer. Duracell batteries, the long-distance power cells, outlast any ordinary battery. The same type of battery that keeps space clocks running for years can bring long life to anything powered by batteries. Dura, as in durable. Cell, as in power cell. The Duracell battery, made by Mallory.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guests are Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder. They're the authors of The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. Ron Meyer owns a film production company, Center Communications. He has produced and directed feature films, including the first feature film for Discovery Communications, Legend of the Spirit Dog. He's the author of 2 novels with Mark Reeder and 2 other novels, their latest being Bigfoot Singularity. Ron leads flow workshops in the 5th Black Belt Aikido and world-renowned fossil collector. In October 2021, his new science fiction novel, Aliens 2035, The End of Technology, has been released. Recently, he produced the #1 streaming documentary series on Amazon Prime about serial killers. Man, we can talk about a lot with this guy, right? As follow-up to his highly successful Amazon Prime series, Chasing Bigfoot, he's produced an award-winning documentary feature called The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. The movie was garnered over 2 million views in less than 5 months. New movies coming soon in 2022, The Paranormal Mind, Lifting the Veil to the Greater Reality, Alien Contact in the Rockies, and Aliens and Nukes, a Mario Wood story. Oh my God, Mario Wood story, I would totally watch that. Next up, Mark Reeder. Where did my bio go for it? Mark Reeder lives in Boulder, Colorado. He's kicked around the universe long enough to have a BA in English, Political Science, and History from the University of South Dakota, and History from the University of Cincinnati. Gray hair and more than a few bumps and bruises, roughed up and battered like his hat. He's still looking for the exit. He's got the short bio. But I haven't had Mark on before. Ron we had on before. He was a great guest. I've really been looking forward to the show. Just finished the book, Bigfoot, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. I've seen the documentary a couple years ago when I had Ron on before. I rewatched a little bit at the other day. You got to check that out. I think you can watch it free on YouTube still. We got a lot to get to. We'll open up the phone lines later in the show, but let's go ahead and get to our guests. Hopefully we got everything working right here. Let me see. I know Mark was good. How you doing tonight, Mark?
Excellent. How you doing, Jason?
Doing great. Now let's see if Ron's got everything working. How you doing tonight,
Can you see
Ron?
me and hear me?
I see you and I hear you, Ron. Awesome. Thank you for being back on the show again, too, Ron.
Yeah, my computer pinked out on me, and I'm on my cell phone.
Okay, just make sure you hold it up close enough when you talk that we can hear you.
Well, can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you.
So
that's good. That's a good raise.
This is pretty much in keeping with all of the Bigfoot stuff that Ron has done. Always he's having troubles with his electronics. So
yeah. There could be the electronic element to it. And like I said, I just finished reading your guys' book. There's a lot I want to get into tonight. Let me get the book cover up here for everybody. It's a great book cover, too. There it is. Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. And like I said, I had Ron on a couple years ago about the documentary. Let's start out. I know
I really want to talk about, you have these 9 different sites that are really covered a lot in this book that you guys, at least Ron went and investigated with others and had a lot of different experiences. There's a lot of photographs in the book and links. So there's a lot of information in this book, a lot of different evidence. But what made you, after the documentary, go to want to write this book?
Well, I had started production on a series called The Paranormal Highway, which took me to 5 locations. I had the idea as a result of the movie that there are these things called paranormal hotspots. The most well-known one is Skinwalker Ranch in Utah, of course. And I thought, and I had the idea that if I went with a crew to these other 5 locations, that I would encounter paranormal phenomenon. Basically taking the Psi laboratory on the road rather than into some building with machinery. And at the same time, we had the idea that there were Bigfoot on our property, and that maybe we could make contact. And then we decided that we would try and open a portal. It was suggested by somebody, and we did. And
I love that part in the book. Like, let's open a portal. I love that you get towards the end of the book, you talk a lot about what you guys did on this L3, site L3, which is your property, right?
Excuse me, what did you say there?
I said you guys did in the book you talk about site L3, which is the land, which is your property, right? That you guys try to open up a portal on.
It is our property. It's a family property. It's a short distance from Estes Park.
Yeah.
It's the gateway to Rocky Mountain National Park. It's a beautiful piece of land in a valley. And we had some indication early on that maybe some prints, one typical aspect of Bigfoot that shows up periodically is you find footprints that go for a short distance, but they don't seem to have a distinct beginning or an end. They just start and stop, and that's very typical.
Yeah, it's like they
and
disappear.
So that happened on our land, and that began our trek to see if we could contact Bigfoot. Do you want to hear the whole story now, or where do you want to go?
We can get into it because this is really like kind of the start of this book in a sense. This property you have. I mean, you go to these other locations, but I find it really interesting, this property you have in the Rocky Mountains, especially the idea of you guys opening your own portal. And you make a comment towards the end of the book that, the one question people should ask, and if it's this easy to open a portal, then what are the military doing or other militaries doing? It makes you think of the kind of like the Stranger Things scenario, or our military or other places or other people opening portals.
Yes, as you know, if you watch the Skinwalker Ranch series, they're kind of obsessing on a portal being there, which opens the gateway to who knows what. Craft may go in and out, maybe creatures come in and out. So we got the idea when we were at one of the more famous paranormal hotspots, and that was in south of Eugene, Oregon. And this guy had a lot of stuff going on, and we thought, well, maybe we could do the same thing. And a woman came up. We talked to her, and she said she had opened a portal on her land and gave us some instructions, and we carried those forward and started a process of what's called gifting, which means you set something around to move, see if something wants to move it in a way that only something extraordinary could do so. So we placed feathers in bottles and tucked them underneath the rocks where nobody else could find them. By the way, our property is very isolated, and we have a homeowner association. Everybody owns 40s or more, and it's well gated, so people nobody can just come and go onto our land.
And there's times you guys can't even get access to it due to like the weather conditions, right? I mean, it's just talking The Shining, Estes Park, where Stanley Hotel is. There's parts that get so snowed in you can't even get access.
Yeah, we're certainly usually shut out for good chunks of the winter, but in the Rockies, the snows come and go fairly quickly, so we can usually get up there once a month, no matter what. Although it could be sometimes is a challenge.
Right.
So we tried gifting, and for a while nothing happened. And then one day, one of the bottles that contained a feather had been opened, and the feather had been placed in a crevice. So we were excited that something wanted to play with us and make contact and interact. And, you know, we don't go up there all the time because it's a bit of a drive, usually on weekends.
Yeah.
But one weekend in November, we went up there and there was a mutilated deer dropped at our gifting site,
Right.
which freaked us out quite a bit in the beginning. But then we decided, well, we got our act together and we did some investigation and we took readings, and we had really high elevated magnetic fluctuation readings
What
that
were you
seemed to
taking
extend over the deer.
I read that part in the book. I mean, what were you guys? Were you guys using just a general electromagnetic like gauze reader, or what were you guys using to get the what were you reading basically when you were there on the electromagnetic scale? Do you remember?
I'm having trouble hearing you because I'm
Oh
on
no.
the phone. I don't know if there's
Yeah.
anything else I can do.
Oh no. Turn me up as much as possible. I don't know. Can you
You're
hear
all
me
the
now?
way up.
Okay. All right. Well, what I was asking, Ron, is what were you guys using to read the electromagnetic field?
We had a tricorder meter,
Oh,
which allows
tricorder.
you
Okay.
to read magnetic fluctuations, but also read
Trifield.
in the radio frequency range. But we
All right.
didn't
Now
do anything with radio frequency to speak of. Although we did and then we also had a Geiger counter in essence, and we got some elevated radioactivity, which is unusual for the place.
Right. Right. Well, I don't know if you can you hear me all right now?
I can hear you a little better, yes.
Okay, good. Okay. I just want to make sure and just keep talking directly in your phone. I know that's awful to have it on your phone sometimes. Well, I'm interested in these spots. I've always been interested in Skinwalker Ranch. I've talked about on the show. We had Josh Turner, Paranormal Roundtable, and me and him have talked about. I gave him my theory of what's going on with like Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know a theory, but something I noticed. With Skinwalker Ranch, I saw was it Jerry Corbell's documentary on it, and they talk about one of the first instances that happened to the original owners where the father and son saw a beast in the field, and they shot at it, and it disappeared. And what it made me think of is a classic case that that's fascinated me since I was a kid was the Bell Witch, and the Bell Witch started with a father and son in a field seeing a beast and shooting at it. And both have very similar weirdness and, activity, major crazy activity going on.
So recently I spoke with John Alexander, who was with Bigelow when he bought the ranch, and
Yeah.
he gave me some insights. But should I continue with the story at the what happened at the on our land?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Continue.
So the deer had its organs had been removed. There was no blood. There was no drag trail or anything. It was just like it had been dropped there, which was pretty unusual because, like I said, we're very isolated from anybody, and there's no hunting allowed up in our
Right.
in our section. So it was just really weird, and the head was gone. But we decided we would put a trail cam on the site, and when we came back after 2 weeks, and we looked at what had been captured on the trail cam, there were a lot of normal things like foxes and bobcats, and at night the trail cam was working perfectly. But we came across one recording from the trail cam, which was, if you're old enough, you might remember the static that showed up on analog televisions.
Yeah.
This digital trail cam had that kind of snowy kind of effect,
Which is weird.
and it marked out a shape of a dome over the gifting site in the carcass. And we got two of these things happen on successive nights. On the first one, we could see something was moving, but we couldn't resolve it.
Yeah.
The second one, we were able to resolve a creature that looked like a miniature brontosaurus.
Yeah.
And we repeated the whole experiment again, and we got one more of those weird staticky things, and this time we got a four-legged creature that looked like nothing you had ever seen before.
It was like translucent
You
too.
can
You
see
could
them
see through
in
it.
our movie, the Alien Contact in the Rockies, and I believe we have pictures of them in the book. Do we not? I
You
can't
do.
remember.
You do, and I mean it's black and white in the book, but in the comic in the book about the last creature you guys photographed is that it was you could see certain parts through it, that it's translucent, so it's not like it's all physically there in that static
No.
image.
Yeah, they were. The thing seemed to waffle in and out, so there was never.
Yeah.
There was always some part of it there, but always some part of it was missing.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, this spot, on your property, where you put this trail cam up, you talk about the animals, that came to it didn't want anything to do with the body. Usually predators would come and pick the pieces off, but they didn't, like a typical, like cattle mutilation.
Yes, I mean there are many cases, not only of cattle but other large animal mutilations like deer and elk and mountain goats, particularly in the Rocky Mountains, that follow the mutilation pattern. Anyhow, when the thing that we could see is that we then took our meters and we could, because we had seen this dome shape, and we could pretty much plot out the activity on our magnetic fluctuation. It mirrored the dome shape that was over the mutilated deer, incidentally. And we could walk away 5 feet from that area and we'd get no reading at all. Nothing.
And it's weird that just a dead animal, middle of the woods, head missing, just laying there. That's not your typical kind of kill site by another animal or predator. Also, they don't leave electromagnetic readings like that. And these pictures that are in the book are really interesting. You do see like a dome shape in the picture, or that you guys caught, and it's digital. You shouldn't be getting that kind of static image on a trail camera.
That's right. And the other thing is that the deer was dropped at our gifting site, which was isolated.
True.
I mean, that's a really weird coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like when your cat comes to your door and drops a dead mouse. It's like, here, I left you a gift. It's like it was returning you a gift. Do you think that's what the message was?
I don't know what the message is.
Yeah.
It sort of says, hey, we're letting you know that this is going on. We're in charge, and show it to the world.
Well, one of the things you talk about in the book is felt presence. And, these experiences people have is not just sometimes seeing things or have evidence of footprints or stuff moving. Sometimes it's a feeling or a download of knowledge that people have. There's also the sizzled effect I'd like to get into, but the felt presence, like when you were in the gifting site, you see the mutilated deer. I mean, you guys were all a bit shocked, but were you feeling the presence of something there? Like this, you knew right away, you felt the presence that this was left for you.
I even had a stranger experience. I sat down and meditated because I was kind of freaked out. And when I closed my eyes, I was doing an open-eyed meditation. Do you know what the hypnagogic state is?
Yes. Yes, I actually try to practice that sometimes.
It's kind of like a theater or a stage that you don't participate in but watch.
Right.
And this parade of weird creatures, for hundreds of them, just paraded through my mind's eye, one after another.
Right.
And that was, I don't know, that was that. It was strange. I never had anything like that before or after.
But that's what I think the paranormal. There's a lot of people in the Bigfoot community that would just disavow any of this, anything to do with aliens or portals or anything. They think it's a physical creature, and I get their perspective. I've had them on the show. But there's a lot of paranormal weirdness besides just seeing a UFO up in the sky at the same time somebody saw a Bigfoot. There's all these other things like the felt presence. One of the sites, what is it? I think L1, right? Montana Vortex, House of Mystery. That's the one where the gentleman that owns it says he hears Bigfoot, doesn't see him, like walk through the building. He can hear the footsteps of a very heavy animal or something walking through the building, and he feels the presence, but you don't see it. It's like it's almost like a ghost of a Bigfoot or something.
Yeah, the one of the ideas is that, and I was just talking to John Alexander about it, and that in that periodically our reality and another reality, but get somewhat connected in a kind of liminal way, and these things can manifest for an individual for a while, and then the realities separate again. And the thought behind that is that if the Bigfoot experience itself, particularly if you see a creature that resembles something with kind of a humanoid form, that it has no agency. The agency exists elsewhere, which is why they're they're there for a while and can have physical effects like leaving tracks or breaking branches or throwing a rock or something like that. But
or I
then,
mean, honestly, I mean, there's people that claim they leave poop, that they have scat that they collect. I don't know how true that is or how they tell. I am not a hunter or a woodsman, but there's a physical evidence that people say they found hairs. So there is some physicality at times, possibly, to this creature. It's not just like a wispy ghost. It's like entering our dimension.
But none of these instances are ongoing or continuous in any way. They're always at best glimpses.
Make sure you're not putting your thumb over the microphone on your phone there, because you got a little muffled.
Yeah, okay.
You know, go ahead and say something. I just want to see you were muffled.
Say that again, please.
Oh, I was just making sure your audio got muffled there. I was making sure you weren't putting your hand over the microphone. Sometimes people do that.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, but
this is not ideal.
I know. Mark, too, your involvement in this, as a writer, what got you? I mean, I know you didn't go to a lot of these sites and that, but what brought your involvement into this project or this book?
Well, a couple of things. Ron's been my mentor for many years now. He has supported my writing, and he and I have written several novels together, and so that brought me in. I visited his place on the land and up in the Rocky Mountains, and that is an unusual place. From the road where you first enter into his property down into the Little Thompson River that runs in the bottom of it, you walk into that place, and you talked about the felt presence. You walk into that place, and you realize this is an unusual place. It's not what you might find if, say, you were going for a hike in Rocky Mountain National Park. Instead, you walk into this place, and it's almost like you're going into a different time or a different era in many ways, is a way that I would describe it. So I knew Ron, and Ron and I are really good friends, and I'm also a skeptic. Now, I want to explain my skepticism. I think that you and I are on the same page when we find it difficult to believe that Bigfoot is a hairy ape-like creature swinging through the trees of the Pacific Northwest. But I can get behind an idea of interdimensionality, that whether it's a creature like Bigfoot or an alien or something else, can appear through a portal and then disappear. The portals are scientifically established, whether you're using Einstein's equations or working with Jack Scudder out of the University of Iowa, who works with magnetic portals. This makes sense. So my skepticism, I think Ron recruited me into writing the book because I could say to him, how can we explain this aside from the fantastical? Is there I don't want to just say rational, because that makes it sound like it's all made up. It's more like, is there another explanation for this? And when you get down to it, it's like the old Sherlock Holmes thing. When you strip away everything that seems obvious, whatever is left, no matter how strange it is, has to be true. So we stripped away the obvious and every other aspect of these sites, and what was left was very intriguing to me and very interesting.
Well, I think what it comes down to, I mean, there's
Bigfoot researchers, and you have some in your book that were totally this is a biological creature for years. That's their thought, and have moved over to this. It's possibly something paranormal, mainly coming from eyewitness testimonies. People who have seen literally a Bigfoot walk into a portal and disappear, or just the lack of the fact of how long this has been researched, and we have not found a body. We have not found a skeleton that we know of. The physical evidence is very scantily out there, yes, there are big, large areas where this creature could live and hide, but eventually you'd think we'd find something.
Yeah, that's been my main problem with people who think of Bigfoot as an actual creature living in the forest. There's so few parts of America left that are complete wilderness that a creature like described in this way could go and be completely undetected.
Yeah.
But Ron talked about the flow state, which he leads, and we, whether you want to call it something like the flow state or big space or a place where you can go,
an altered state.
Yeah, the ego goes away, and you're just simply in that zone where you're connected to a larger reality than the one that you simply talk about in your head all the time. The idea of a portal really, really intrigues me. And as a matter of fact, Ron and I have written several books together, and I'm an author on other books, and I'm currently exploring that in a series of novels that I'm writing for young adults. And thanks to Ron, it's proving very interesting for me.
Well, it's fascinating to me, the idea that we could live in a reality where there are places where the veil is thin between our world and other worlds. We could just say that. We don't know what those other worlds are, and that my sons are huge fans of Stranger Things. And I was reading this book, and like I said, I got to the end of it, and he goes, and the questions asked, could opening portals are that easy? If humans can do it, then who's to say the military's not? And then the whole premise of Stranger Things is portals and creatures coming through. And when we talk about not just Bigfoot, but when you talk about things like Dogman, Mothman, New Jersey Devil, these are things that just right away most people go to, yeah, that's a paranormal event, a creature from another dimension. There's no way there's a Dogman living out in the woods surviving. Most people, I think, go down that path. But Bigfoot's a little more of the argument of still the physical creature, because I think how close it is to the ape, and how recent our discovery of apes are in human history. Being able to prove their existence, I think some people still want to hang on to that they're a biological creature, but there is this paranormal element. And there's other things that make it similar to other paranormal events. Like one of the things I've thought about Bigfoot is there's always that rancid smell, that horrible smell. Well, you talk to people who go through demonic experiences, or like the entity case. I've had Barry Taff on here, a parapsychologist that was involved in the entity case. There was horrible smells there, and a physical manifestation in front of a bunch of parapsychologists, a green body form that formed in front of many witnesses during these events. But it was a big one, like it could be the size of a Bigfoot. If you read the book, The Entity, these things, it had a smell, it did horrible things, but it was not, it was something interacting from another dimension, just as similarly as people's encounters with Bigfoot. Their memories are even affected. We talk about the sizzled, which I never heard that before. But you say it's something within the Bigfoot community people have experienced, where they have memory loss, or they feel like I've had this effect on paranormal investigations. I'm reading this thing about being sizzled. I'm like, well, this has happened at haunted locations to certain team members of mine, where they have memory loss, complete memory loss of events that happened, or have a really that felt presence, of course, too. But there's also UFO. My UFO experience was a sizzled. I felt it before I saw it, for one. It was a really weird, slow down, mind-numbing experience, but I remembered it, but three out of the other four witnesses did not a few days later. They literally could not remember the whole thing, barely could remember it, if at all. They're like, yeah, what was that? They literally forgot it. This was in high school, but I'm not saying drugs were making these kids forget. Nobody was high. We were 16, standing outside, getting ready to leave, and we saw a huge UFO, and we had that sizzled effect. I swear we did. I find that whole thing interesting too.
So here's an interesting thing for me as a skeptic, and I'm sure that you've already explored this, and your audience knows a great deal about it. There's a thing known as global amnesia, which people do experience. You could be out in the woods and come home and not actually remember that you were out in the woods. Has nothing to do with the sizzled effect. The sizzled effect is almost the same effect as what happens to Ron's electronics, in which he discusses on the many sites that he visited. In fact, every site he visited, there were problems with his electronics, and you can see this happen in the human brain too. And you think that putting the matrix aside, we're not really batteries, but we do have electromagnetic fields, and so this sizzled effect, you can understand how it could scientifically actually happen to an individual. It's not drugs. It's the brain just sort of turns off, and it's different than global amnesia, which is a different animal. So that's another thing that really intrigued me with everything that Ron brought up. When he would talk about the electronics going bad and the brains having this sizzled effect, I thought, this isn't weird science. This is something that is documented and bears investigation.
Well, what I'm saying too is that this is something, the same thing you're talking about, though, has happened at Paranormal Investigation. Some of the same effects on people is what I find interesting. Again, Barry Taff, I had on the show, investigated one site in California that had huge electromagnetic readings, and the owner, David Owens, right, has documented all this. There's tons of stuff moving, weird phenomenon. But for somebody like Barry Taff, he's always been sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies that high. And he got extremely sick and would never go back there, while other people walk in are totally fine. And there's an effect of something when you have these high electromagnetic frequencies or these shifts or these places like this that might be a portal that affects certain people differently than others, it seems like, too.
Yeah. Very much so. Ron and I have discussed this on more than one occasion, especially entering the flow state of the big space. There's a sense of the ego going away and things happening, but you're very aware of them. It's just the ego goes away. When you come out of that big space, you're still aware of what happened. So this is very different than the brain being sizzled. And
yeah, I gotcha. Ron, I wanted to check. Are we? I saw you trying to fix maybe audio issues. You hear me all right now?
I can hear you, but can you see me?
Yeah. Wait, I just have it. Oh, I did, and then he disappeared. Oh no, we lost Ron. Hopefully he checks back in. He said that, and I wonder if he hit something wrong when he did that.
I'm telling you, every single time Ron has been working on these Bigfoot projects. Everywhere he went, every single site, his electronics were sizzled as well as
sizzled, right?
The individuals.
It is weird the effect you guys did, or Ron did on some of these sites. He did ITC, something we do live on this show. What? There we go. Spirit box communication. Let me see. Add him to the stream.
So my video's not working, but I think it'd be better if I could hear and you could hear me.
As long as we hear you, that's what matters, Ron. We can hear you just fine. Good,
and I can hear you finally.
All right, good. That works. Ron, so I want to know too. We have these 9 locations in the book.
Yes.
And you're living my paranormal dream, getting to go and test these places and test these theories, because I've always been fascinated by the idea that we live in a world where there are these gateways or portals where things come through. I think there's a lot of probable reasons to why people see Bigfoot, Dogman, New Jersey Devil, Mothman because of this. I've had this feeling theory for years, and I would love to have been able to investigate it like you did. What went into choosing a lot of these sites for the book?
One condition was I needed to have somebody at these sites that had reported some activity already, and that they reported over an extended period of time. So when we went to the Beast of Bray Road location, you're familiar with that at least?
Yeah, we've had Linda Godfrey on. It's so fascinating.
Yeah. So Jay Bachokin had been investigating Bigfoot in that area for at least multiple years, had done a movie. And Lee Hempel, who owned 35 acres right next to Bray Road, had accumulated a lot of material on photographs and footprints of 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 the dog man itself, the Bray Road. So, and he had been doing this for multiple years. So I felt fairly confident that if we went there, and my son-in-law, who's the main paranormal investigator, is a bit of a sensitive himself, that something would show up. And that was probably the place we had the weirdest stuff go on.
Yeah.
Should I talk a little bit about what
Yeah,
happened?
I would love to, because you got a photo there that's pretty incredible. That's in the book too, of what might be the Beast of Bray Road. Correct?
Yes, indeed. So this 35 acres is pretty an ordinary hayfield, at least when we were there filming, and it's right next. It runs parallel to Bray Road, or kind of adjacent to it, and the owner took us on a hayride along the perimeter of the place, and he said, "Here's this place I won't go into, because that's where he saw the beasts go in and out."
Right.
So he said, we'll call that our sweet spot, and that's where we'll set up our investigation. And so the weird stuff started happening when we were on the other side first, and Jay and Alan, the paranormal investigator, decided to walk across the field, and we would drive around and go take our vehicle to what we call the sweet spot.
Right.
So when I looked at the footage of what happened when Jay and Alan, as the investigator, crossed the field, you could see on the footage that the place that we call the sweet spot, there was a self-illuminating light.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Jay pulled out his laser and touched it. You could see he found it in the footage. And he also did a brief interview talking about kind of a weirdness that he was experiencing, kind of a fear, but he wasn't quite sure. So later, when I called him up and said, "Well, Jay, why did you put your laser on that self-illuminating spot, which we call the sweet spot?" And he said, "I didn't do that." He had no memory of doing that.
Yeah.
He had no memory of doing the interview. So anyhow, what we did then is we didn't know that at the time that he had that memory lapse. So things were in many ways quite normal, but immediately talking about felt presence. I think it was Jay and the cameraman both felt that and heard the kind of rustling in the woods, that something was real close, but you couldn't see it, the typical sort of thing. And so Alan and I bopped out and got our thermal, and you could see an extended cold spot over what we call the sweet spot.
Right.
And when that happened, Alan went running into the brush, which was really quite terrible, but get a lot of scratches. But never heard anything disappear. So we decided, well, what we'll do is we'll set our REM pod. You know what a REM pod is? You think?
Yes. Oh yeah.
It's a device that puts out a weak radio signal, and if something enters the field, it sets off some lights and makes some noise and so on. So that's one of the devices we use quite a bit. So we just went for a walk along to let it kind of cool down and see if something else would happen. And Alan started filming, and then we got to this situation where something messed with his camera. He couldn't turn it off.
Right.
It was in the record mode, but you're never supposed to pull the battery when you're in the record mode.
Yeah.
They warn you, but that was the only way. So that was just another anomalous little event. But when we got back, Alan went down to pick up the REM pod, and there were these eyes staring at him.
Yeah.
And we all looked at it. We shone red light on it. We shone white light on it. And for a period of at least 5-6 minutes, it didn't do anything. It just kind of turned its head, moved its body. It had an elongated body, which corresponded one of the set of weird footprints that Lee, the owner, had picked up over the years in the mud and in the snow. And I kind of thought if it's the beast, it was about all we could have handled at that moment. I mean, if it had been a 7-foot, something that looked like a wolf, we probably would have,
I would have got another. As much as I want to discover and see, but I'm not going to mess with an actual beast.
So that was we got it on 2 cameras.
Yeah.
It's no wild animal would sit there and have 4 people, 5 people yelling and talking and pointing at it and shining lights at it. It just wouldn't happen.
No, unless it's totally not scared of you. That's definitely it.
Yeah, that's it. And then the next weird thing is, again, kind of the sizzle effect is that before we did that filming that night, we drove down Bray Road in the car, and it's a very short little road, and it drives people crazy, as you might imagine. So if you stop, somebody comes running out. But we had to drive it anyhow. And I had my cell phone camera out the front window as we rolled, and we all talked. And then when I showed the cut to Lee and Jay, they had no recollection of going down Bray Road. In fact, they had no recollection of going out to eat at a pizza place.
Yeah,
it's all gone. And then to top it all off, when we dropped Lee off, he has a loft in a shed on his property. He took out his infrared camera and recorded one of the best ghost lights I've ever seen over us that we never saw during the same time we were doing our filming of the possible beast of Bray Road. Now there's a bunch of stuff going on in one place.
But you're saying like it followed him to his home, or at least carried some of the presence.
Possibly. It was over us. Well, we were doing our thing at the same time. I mean, it was a massive. It looked like they call it ghost lights or ghost fire. It looked exactly like that. I mean, it was moving, and you could see the self-illuminating light as a fixed point. It was pretty incredible, and yet when we were there, we didn't see anything above us, near us, anything like that.
What I find fascinating about these encounters, though, like this, is their parallels to somebody going to a paranormal, supposed haunted location. How people do that, and they'll go home and they'll have activity in their home. There is something to the phenomenon of Bigfoot in these encounters, or Dogman especially. Sometimes, especially Dogman, people say they feel it before they saw it. They even feel like a telepathic communication. Sometimes between them and the Dogman. That's a felt presence, I guess you could say. But there's something that's so similar to somebody's encounter with something in their home or in a location that's supposedly haunted, with the lights and the evidence. There's a similarity between the two.
Absolutely. The consensus is growing is that this is all sourced in one way from it's the same phenomena, the same reality behind it all.
Right.
I mean, one way to think about it is that if there's probably 1 million anomalous events going on every minute around the world, it's not infrequent.
Right.
I mean, we watch TV and we see someone going into one home, to look for a ghost, but multiple people are experiencing these things all the time. Constantly. They just don't report it, and it hasn't really been taken seriously, as you know, by the scientific community, and traditional religion rejects it as playing with the devil, perhaps.
Well, look at the Fatima event where you had multiple witnesses to something. They turn it as a religious experience, but if you get into the actual story of Fatima and what people witnessed, it's very much like they were seeing a UFO in the sky when it's described as a disc in the sky. And you go back to other religious, go to the Bible, and these experiences that people had in the Bible
are very similar in the religious, at least in the felt presence sense.
Absolutely. So, have you had Ray Hernandez on? I would suggest if you haven't, you should.
No, I have not.
Um, he's gathered, he's created this vast archive of paranormal experiences, and he again puts forth the argument that they're all sourced in some way from the same thing. But his turning point experience was an event occurred in front of him and his wife, a clear event. He saw a UFO and she saw an angel.
Yeah.
And when people, if you watch the Skinwalker Ranch show, one person gets affected, not everybody. As far as I can tell, neither my cameraman nor Alan nor going back to Bray Road had any loss of memory. So it wasn't affecting everybody. Whatever was going on is selective, which indicates that it's in control in a very profound way, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and we talked about the coincidences between paranormal hauntings and Bigfoot and Dogman. Then you get into the alien, and we've had Terry Lovelace, who was had his incident at Devil's Den, with a triangular ship that abducted him and his friend, and the memory loss and the things that they felt and experienced, sickness, all kinds of things that happened to them out in the middle of the woods, right? Just like it could have been a Bigfoot encounter. That people are having this, I mean, the memory loss alone, when it comes to like my UFO encounter, it was like my brain got fuzzy at the moment I felt it. Like it was a weird feeling, that there's similarities there, I mean, especially getting abduction cases.
Yeah. So you'd have to say, let's just call it the it right now.
Right.
That as John Alexander, he calls them a precognitive sentient phenomenon, because it's got to know in advance what's going on to make this stuff happen in some very special way. Do you understand why it's precognitive? You know, precognitive events.
A psychic experience.
Yeah, that you saw something that turned out to be true. You know, you have that intuition that something's bad, or you should turn here, or you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And that's all kind of in a strange way looking to the future. That something, if you don't take action now or recognize something bad or good is going to happen, it could be positive.
Right.
So the idea is that in some way they kind of know what they know what you're doing, whatever it is. It knows what you're doing, because that's the only way, for example, it could differentially affect people, certain people,
right?
Not everybody.
Well, you know, I've compared it to a couple fictional things. One, I'm a Star Wars fan. I've compared it to the cave in Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back, where Luke goes in with expectation of a fight with his weapons. Yoda tells him not to go in. And he ends up getting a fight with a ghostly Darth Vader, or Darth Vader looks like him. Or Harry Potter, they have the Bogart that's in the closet. And it'll be whatever your fear is what it's going to come out as. And I feel like when we deal with these paranormal phenomena of UFOs or aliens or Bigfoot or dogmen, that these things are similar in the sense they're like the Bogart in the closet from Harry Potter, that they could be just our innate reactions or ancient reactions in a sense. If you think about, if there's some kind of other interdimensional entity trying to react to us, let's say it feeds off of fear. Okay, if somehow our electromagnetic energy, if we exude fear, it's an element of energy for this thing to manifest. Okay, and what if its way of getting to manifest is, or to do it is that reaction of fear? It has to give us something fearful, like a beast. Like I was pointing out, the case of the Bell Witch. They saw a beast before it all started. And they're giving it more attention. It starts to do more things. Just Skinwalker Ranch, the first thing they really encountered was a beast in the field. What if this is some ancient primitive reaction to some paranormal or some interdimensional entity that's reacting with us? It's the Bogart. It's the thing that it's going to display what we fear innately, maybe.
Or maybe that's what you bring to the table too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that argue that to some extent it reflects back your, should we just say, your emotional state at the time?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I definitely believe there's some element to that. I mean, it's like you talk about you guys are trying to open a portal on your L3, the land, your site. You're doing what like you were doing like what Native American rituals kind of to open up the portal.
We did. We used a specially designed drum, Native American drum, and did a kind of ritualistic thing, calling forth whatever, just saying we're here, we want to play, we'd like to make contact. So go ahead, we're ready.
And well, what's a Ouija board? People are getting a Ouija board, and then they have all this craziness happen after they use a Ouija board. And a lot of people say you're opening a portal in your home, or people do rituals, occult rituals in their home, and they say they have stuff open a portal. If the human mind can do this in a sense, so the human has the ability through ritual or practice or thought and intent can open a portal to another dimension. The possibilities are endless of what we could be interacting with every day. What could be happening here.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk to, let's say, about somebody has a visual sighting of a Bigfoot briefly, and they're always brief. You could say, is that an illusion created by the brain, and there was really nothing there, or was it an illusion created by an it, or was there actually something physically there that they saw?
Right.
And obviously, that I'm tending towards the middle one. That is, that there's something substantive there. It's just not
always there.
Not always there, and it's really not the animal you think it might be.
I mean, well, think about somebody who sees a ghost. Sometimes, yeah, you hear they're translucent or whatever. I've seen that. But other people have had experiences where they really thought it was a real person standing there. They're totally physical. They touch them. There's physicalities. There's somebody there. I mean, a lot of people who have the one of my favorite paranormal experiences is a loved one who's crossed on and who's come to them, and they'll be physically right there in front of them, like they're really there. There can be physical manifestations in a haunting, just like there could be in a Skinwalker Ranch scenario, or any of these Bigfoot sightings. They could be physically here, like the Patterson-Gimlin film. I mean, that to me, I'd like to think it's real. I don't see anybody that's totally debunked it, in my opinion, and it's I think it's stood the testament of time. That looks like something physical. I mean, that it's there. They could record it on film.
Yeah, that's a really strange case, isn't it? You think if it were a fraud, it could be easily debunked. I mean, I've talked to Bob Gimlin. Maybe you have too. Is that right?
I wish. No.
He's a very genuine person.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people who have talked to him, and they all praise him. I mean, they all say the same thing.
Yeah, he was just a young cowboy, helping out.
Yeah.
He said he did point the rifle at it, and that's when it looked.
Yeah.
But I'm convinced that if it is a fraud or a scheme or something, he was not part of it, other than just being there, taking the horses to get to where you need to go with the camera.
Well, they were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's one, I don't know what special covered it, but they flew Giblin out there and some others and a film crew, and they went to the original spot, and you can see that it's not an easily accessed area. So if they hoaxed it, it would have been a production. You think Gimlin would have known, would have seen it. It would have been, I don't think they could hide a guy out there in the forest in the suit.
Yeah, and the other argument is that the suit technology was not that
true.
good.
Yes, right, exactly. And the more we've analyzed it, the more we can see the muscle, the movement, that is not a suit.
It begs the question: if it's real, what was that, and why is that the only one?
Right. I mean, well, we've showed a lot of different possible Bigfoot videos on this show, and we've torn them apart, but there's no way of really knowing, anymore in this land of illusion we live in, of what's real anymore. Maybe somebody has filmed it. We've showed it on this show, but to know if it's real, it's hard to tell anymore. I mean, Gimlin and Patterson were the first, and really didn't hoax it, and that's why it's lasted this long, in my opinion. Nowadays, though, with digital manipulation and better suit technology and the way pervading internet of videos of evidence, nobody can get their head out of their butt to know what's real or not.
Yeah, well, we did some filming with a suit that was used in a feature film, and but we always put underneath it, dramatic portrayal or something like that. So
Yeah.
we weren't trying to say we actually captured it on camera. But
But maybe
the little creatures we got that came through our portal, it's hard to say what in the heck they are. Where did did something actually, is it running around in the world today, or I have no idea.
I mean, you go back to, I mean, we got a lot of other entities besides Dogman and Bigfoot. You get to fairies that have ancient, we go back, 1,000 years of other cultures describing creatures, different kinds of creatures throughout the world. Some, Bigfoot alone, I mean, it's been described by many different cultures. And even you could see some other, like the Green Man of the Forest, all these different things that there's something that people have been witnessing in forests, and maybe it's the scariness of the forest that puts the mind in this state. But people have been witnessing things for thousands of years all across the world of creatures like Bigfoot or Bigfoot in the forest, and so it's not even a modern story. It goes way back. We can get in more into that. We got to go to commercial break, guys, and we're going to open up the phone lines if you're cool with that.
Sure.
All right, awesome. All right, we're going to go to commercial break, guys. I will open up the phone lines when we come back. We're going to continue to talk with Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder about their book, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. And also there's a documentary. You can watch it on YouTube, I believe it's on there. There's a Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. Both extremely fascinating. I have the book. I finished it. I'm showing it here. I see the book. We got the book cover up here. Honestly, if you're into this topic, you believe like I do that there's something more to the Bigfoot story than just a creature we haven't discovered yet, I highly recommend this book, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. When we come back, we'll talk more.
Into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHN Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Edgar Allan Poe wrote Spirits of the Dead with a pen dipped in warm blood. You will see the ultimate in terror with this important all-star cast. Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda in Edgar Allan Poe's Spirits of the Dead. Only Poe's demented genius could bring to the screen such horror and evil. Spirits of the Dead stars Brigitte Bardot, Alain Delon, Jane Fonda, Terence Stamp, and Peter Fonda. Directed by three masters of the cinema, Federico Fellini, Louis Malle, and Roger Vadim. Spirits of the Dead is an adventure in terror beyond your wildest nightmares. Spirits of the Dead in color is rated R.
Okay. So, does anybody want to play Parcheesi? Okay, who brought the dog?
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guests are Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder. They are the authors of the Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. We're talking about, are they interdimensional beings, Bigfoot? Or are aliens interdimensional beings? I mean, are they from other planets or interdimensional? What do we got going on this strange world we live in, where reality is not what everybody's told you it is? If you're an experiencer, like many of you I know are in this community that watches this show, and myself, you've heard all my stories, unend them. I've said them a bunch of times on my weird experiences, that there is more to this reality than what scientists have been telling us. Maybe they're just discovering it as they blow up particles in their new collider, right? I don't know. I know that we're living in a stranger world than what I was first told as a kid. For my discovery was seeing a green floating head. I've told that a billion times, but that told me as a young child that reality is way more stranger than what people think it is. And that could be the case for Bigfoot. The reason we've not found it, is it interdimensional? Is it the aliens' pet they're letting out for a walk? I don't know. But these experiences, and people I've had on the show have talked about their experience with Bigfoot, there seems to be something more going on than just some biological entity we have not discovered in our forests. Questions for you. Call in tonight with your questions for our guests, Mark Reeder, Ron Meyer, about have you had a paranormal experience with Bigfoot? I'd love to hear about it. Do you believe Bigfoot's paranormal, or do you disagree? If you do, call in, but be respectful and join the conversation as we do every Sunday night. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. Speaking of, let me make sure the phone lines are open. Hold on. All right, phone lines are open. Call in. I got the numbers here, 219-230-4444 or 260-225. I got to read it because I forget it, 9419. And then there's the Skype IDs, OOJBland00. or J Bland or Paranormal Soup, or no, J Bland Paranormal Soup. That's the other Skype ID. Multiple ways to call in. If I hang up on you, it's because I got the line full. Just try calling in again. But the lines are open. Let's go ahead and get back to our guests, Mark Reeder and Ron Meyer. Let me make sure they're unmuted. All right, guys. Let me see. Oop, I got to get this pan up. There we go. Now, Ron's camera's not working tonight, guys, but we sacrificed the camera for better audio. Audio is more important than seeing Ron's beautiful face, but thank you guys for hanging in there with me tonight.
That was a good decision.
Yeah. Always go for the audio. Always go for the audio. So, like I said, it's been a couple years since I watched the documentary, but I really, truly just finished the book. And you bring up a lot of religious examples, like within the Bible or with Islam, of these experiences people have that, are felt presences or the sizzled, or that we've been experiencing these kind of things for thousands of years. In the modern day, we're trying to videotape and record it, but could, an apostle recorded his experience having a moment with Jesus? I don't know. Are these things recordable? That was what we're getting at with the Pattinson Gimlin film. It's, to me, real evidence. Obviously, it means if it is, that these things are physically entering our dimension at this time.
I agree.
Well,
do you want to say something, Mark?
I was going to say, let's take the Pattinson Gimlin film out of the equation just for a second.
Okay.
And if you go back 2,000 years and the biblical examples of paranormal experiences, those paranormal experiences from 2,000 years ago the people are going to use symbols and ideas of their age. You fast forward 1,000 years into the Middle Ages, you get trolls, elves, fairies.
Fairies, yep.
And you're going to have a certain amount of carryover from 2000 to 1000 to the present. But in the present age, most people are a lot more educated, and they will not use symbols from 2000 or 1,000 years ago to express an interdimensional experience that they have.
Yeah.
And then you add the internet on top of that, and people are starting to say, whoa, I'm not the only guy in the world that experienced a Bigfoot encounter or an alien encounter. And what's happening, I believe, is that as more people talk about this, the symbols change into a more modern symbol, and there actually comes a point where we can say interdimensional travel is a reality, whether you base it on quantum mechanics or the fact that there are multiverses, that the planes of existence for multiverses kind of overlap from time to time. But this gives us a symbology and a psychology in our 21st century that says there is something more to these experiences. They're just not simply phenomena that people experience and has no meaning. Ron and I have discussed this many times. We're of the opinion that these phenomena, these paranormal experiences, are a way to open the door for humans to self-understanding and a better understanding of the universe, which isn't really that different from 2,000 years ago when you have these experiences like St. Francis of Assisi having the experience with the leper. Or 1,000 years ago with him, but his experience opens his door, his reality, to a greater understanding. And he uses that greater understanding to promote love and brotherhood in the world.
I think you also used with Saul on the road to Damascus as an example. I thought that was a really good one too, as an example of a felt presence experience where where he's seeing Jesus talking to him, but the people hear it, they don't see it. They're giving their testimony of what they witnessed at that time, and it's very similar to people people will say they'll see a UFO while there's other people standing next to them who don't see it. Or same with Bigfoot and Dogman. People have had these experiences. Some people's minds are open to see it, but at the other times it's physically there enough that you could take a picture or a photo of it.
Right.
I think we're dealing with a lot of different things. Yeah.
It makes perfect sense that that you, Ron, and I could be standing in a field, and Ron mentions this with I think with Ray Hernandez, three people standing in a field, and they all have a different experience of something. Maybe somebody feels something or doesn't, and the other two see something. It's different, an angel, a UFO, however you want to explain it. But two of those people have an experience that allows them an opening of their mind, their heart, however you wish to explain it, that gives them a greater understanding of themselves and the universe.
Sometimes I think these locations, I've talked about this as a paranormal investigator with people, and I got Zach waiting on the phone line. We're going to get your call in just a second, Zach. But some people, I had a paranormal investigator with me who literally her whole demeanor changed, her attitude, and she had a blank out frozen moment where she couldn't move or talk or anything. And the whole night was scary just because of what she was going through. And the next day she didn't remember any of it. This was a location, a friend's property, actually, a friend of mine he's gotten some crazy evidence and he's still experiencing craziness there. It's a weird location. But the fact is that I look at her and her lost memory. I have a alien experience, 2 different ones, and both of them were my brain's being fried or something where I can't remember all of it. I always wonder, is this an electromagnetic reaction with the brain with the instance of something touching us from another reality? Like, there's something trying to communicate with us, obviously. Be it the aliens, be it Bigfoot, be it Dogman, be it the Jersey Devil, be it Mothman. Look at the John Keel Mothman stuff. I mean, that was something trying to communicate with people. Maybe it was a Point Pleasant Bridge accident it was trying to get across. That's what the movie tries to show you. But if you get the John Keels, it's a lot weirder. And a lot weirder, Indrid Cold, and that there's these things you just can't fit it into any kind of category or box. It's like paranormal Disneyland. These events of weirdness and strange activity, and different people reacting to it differently. It's human perception has a play in this, obviously.
And I think you make a really important point there, Jason. When you try to put it into a box, you try to limit it to a particular symbol or a particular theology or ideology, it actually destroys the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's another aspect to this, and that is these contact experiences. Sometime, and there are many reports of this, and you can find them contemporaneously, that people are getting, I'll use a computer metaphor, a download of something that they can turn into technology.
Yes.
It's something of a precognitive experience. Perhaps they see a way to build something, see something, and then they can re-engineer it, reverse engineer it. And if you look at the stories of a lot of the famous physicists in particular, their insights came in a flash from out of nowhere.
Tesla interviews, he describes seeing a flash, a bright white flash or blue flash, and he would get information, technological information, downloaded.
So there's a whole nother strand of this, which is we're co-evolving with our technology in an extraordinary way, and in some sense, this technology, if you look at it, where in the heck does this come from? It seems to come out of the blue almost in many ways. But
we've talked about that on this show a lot.
I'm sure you have. So that's another aspect of this whole phenomenon. Another modality of contact. They're not all kind of like beasts or angels or momentary creatures that go, but they too are transformational, and they often will open the door for somebody to change how they see the world and pursue something and change their life. They're not just, you see them and then you say you're done with them. They're not done with you often.
Right.
So, and as you know that maybe you've heard of the Invisible College.
A little bit.
It's part of the greater movement that we talk about.
Yeah. The technology.
The technology, and then the spiritual but not religious, or the religion of no religion. That there are these people who have access to these groundbreaking technological ideas, and they don't
that they're
downloading, but they don't tell people how they got them, because it would destroy their career. At least they believe that. Or
Well,
if
look
they're
at the look at the reports from the Nazis in World War II and the Thal Society and what they were doing and supposedly channeling information and technology that it's been rumored about for many years. You know, that the possibility that we can channel some kind of entities or a universal consciousness or something along the lines where we can get information about how to make things that aren't so peaceful. I mean, Tesla was coming up with, he wanted to come up with a doomsray or some kind of like death ray, So is it just information out there that can be collected no matter by who or intent,
I want to personalize this if Ron doesn't mind. Ron and I have written several books together, over a half dozen of them, most of them novels, and it generally takes us about a year to write something together. But in writing this particular book, Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited, there was a sort of downloading process going on here in the middle of our writing this, and we managed to put it together quite quickly within a month and a half, which is phenomenal for us to write together in such a way. And we were talking about it at coffee about a week after we finished, and how we both felt that the ideas in this nonfiction book really came from outside of ourselves, not something that we just kind of dreamt up, like talking about Illuminati stories or something, but something that really came to for people who are Edward Anton Wilson fans. But at any rate, that kind of personalizes it, that we had that feeling of information being downloaded to us as we were writing.
It was very magical. It just happened in no time at all.
The best things happen that way.
Yeah.
And to some extent, I think that this whole process of me doing this successful media, is quite extraordinary. I never set out to do this, and it seems like I can't help but not do it.
We got Zach on the line I want to get to. He's been waiting. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How are you doing this evening?
Doing great. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, I have two questions this evening. Hey, Ron. Hey, Mark. How are you guys doing this evening?
Excellent, Zach. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so my first question, it goes off really my personal belief. I think that when it comes to interdimensional, extraterrestrial travel or anything like that, there's always like a universal baseline and all that. And my belief that one of those baselines happens to be mathematics. So my question to you is, based on your research that you have done, how have you seen Bigfoot or Bigfoot entities and all that? How have you seen them incorporate mathematics to be able to, cross between dimensions or be able to travel to other planets? Can you be able to elaborate maybe a little bit on that?
I think it's a mystery. I haven't come across anybody there may be people that know, but if they know, it's cloaked in secrecy right now. It's kind of like the Tic Tacs. You just know that they're real, and they don't. In the Tic Tacs, you know what I'm talking about with the Tic Tacs, right? The UAP. They just don't care that we know about them anymore.
Well, we got too many other things to distract us. Instagram and TikTok and all these other things. People are caught up taking selfies, There's just, but I do think as a population, we're becoming more awakened to these things.
There's ideas like the one I mentioned earlier, that these two realities collide in some way temporarily, and then they pull apart, and something that can be kind of a puppet master can play in our world for a little while, but the mathematics or the physics behind it is not clear, and that's probably because, and this seems to be, that there's a physics of information that we don't quite understand that would bridge the gap between quantum mechanics and gravity, and people who are studying the origin of life have come to the same conclusion, that there's an aspect of something that you call information that's the missing piece, and there are people working on it now, that it has to do with the travel of information, because information is not physical in itself. And then of course that many people say we live in a simulation that our brain creates. So we
The
don't
Matrix.
really, we really don't see reality at all. We see and hear and feel what is good for our survival, and that's it, but not really what's there. So we're behind the eight ball there.
Maybe our military isn't. I don't know. Zach, you got another question for our guests?
Yeah, going back to the previous comment and all that, if that were the case for my Matrix, I would have won the Mega Million on that. But anyway, that's besides the point. So my second question, actually, I don't know if anybody has ever talked about it at all, but I propose a new theory and all that, and I just wanted to get both of your opinions really on this theory. Is it possible that Bigfoot and other entities like Bigfoot are they present day Nephilim?
From the biblical Enoch kind of deal.
Yep.
Mark, you have any thought on that?
I'm sorry, but this term Nephilim is new to me.
Nephilim from the Book of Enoch, or in basically are the offspring of angel and men.
Oh, okay.
Or angel and women, or angel and people. Sorry. And they were beasts who walked the earth that were large, and they say Goliath was probably Nephilim, but basically hybrids of man and angel. But they were described as beasts.
Yeah, my gut reaction to this is that's going back to a comment we made earlier about symbology of 2,000 years ago or 1,000 years ago to explain this sort of phenomenon. And it would work then, because you'd be able to say, oh, Goliath was an offspring of an angel and people. Though nowadays, scientists and geneticists who look at the biblical explanation of David and Goliath actually see Goliath as a person suffering from giganticism, which is a problem with the pituitary gland. And he has all of the classic symptoms of that. He couldn't see very well. He had to be helped onto the field because he couldn't see very well. His movements were lumbering and slow. He was big, so he scared the crap out of everybody. But David was a sling thrower, and sling throwers could bring down wolves and lions with a sling. So bringing down Goliath was actually fairly simple for him. But we get now, I think our symbology now aligns more with what Ron was talking about, in that in the internet age, whether you're downloading information, you're using the symbols of the internet age, downloading and things like that. You look at a Bigfoot phenomenon not as an actual creature, but as a paranormal phenomenon or an interdimensional force or energy or something that's coming through will manifest to the individual in whatever symbol they see or they're comfortable with. So that's my answer.
My personal answer may be that if you think about us combining with technology, maybe that the new form of that will be some form of cyborg, which is a marriage of technology and biology. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're moving towards it.
Yeah. Zach, does that answer your question?
That does answer my question. That's really all that I had to say. Thank you guys so much for answering my questions. I love hearing everything that you're saying, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you, Zach.
It's good to have
All
an
right, have a good night, everybody.
So, but this is the thing with, I mean, the biological aspect of Bigfoot, possibly an alien connection too. If it's not interdimensional, is this a remnant of something from ancient aliens? I've heard people say, like, the reference to, like, the Enkidu in Babylonian mythology of a hairy wooded man, or in the Gilgamesh, even though it's mentioned. There's traces of the Bigfoot encounter, the hairy man in the woods, that go way, 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 way back. And some people believe they could have been the first hybrids of worker bees before the aliens made us, an ancient aliens theory. we don't know our history. That's partly part of the problem. At the same time, is I've always wondered, these creatures exist. I mean, they talk about the Bigfoot being the giant Canopithecus that existed millions of years ago. I've seen my cat, just to make an example. I mean, people think people are ghosts. Well, I've seen my cat after just died. I heard it, saw it, felt it, it purred. It was there. It manifested in front of me. That's an animal. Who's to say dinosaurs, Bigfoot, and even if you throw out maybe not even ghosts, that time isn't what we understand, that we're interacting with different timelines, the multiverse. But these things are, in a sense, just like seeing a ghost of a person, you're seeing the ghost of a Gigantopithecus or a dinosaur, because you guys got like this little looks like a little dinosaur, brontosaurus in a picture. I've always wondered that.
Yeah, I showed it to a few fairly well-known cryptozoologists, and they actually, to my surprise, thought that these were actual little dinosaurs running around.
But it's not likely that there'd be dinosaurs like that running around. We would have found them. But for that moment in time, it was something was interacting, or a timeline was interacting, where maybe that is a baby dinosaur in that timeline interacting with us here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. What happened to it, though?
Yeah.
I mean, we think of time as being linear. So what happened 2,000 years ago couldn't possibly interact with what happens today because it's 2,000 years ago. But time is just a way to measure accomplishment. I'm going to build a house and it takes me 2 months to build the house. I mean, but who's to say that time isn't malleable? That there isn't a sort of a way of using the energy of a black hole, for example, to
gravity
to create a time loop. So it's all stuff that we're actually now exploring because we have the scientific method started 500 years ago with Descartes and Galileo and others, and working through to the present. That says, hey, we can investigate these things on this particular level. But, and Ron brings this up a lot in our conversations when we were writing the book. You've got the scientific, but the scientific element can't necessarily explain the paranormal element. And it isn't necessarily trying to explain the paranormal element, but the paranormal element is there nonetheless.
One of the things
it has. Go ahead.
No, keep going. Sorry.
I was going to say, so nevertheless, it's there. The paranormal is there. And I believe that as the 21st century opens up more and more, you're going to see how the paranormal is actually as much an exact science as what we think of science being now. So that's just my point.
Well, have you ever heard of the Montauk Project? It's a lot of what, when I first saw the first season of Stranger Things, I was like, oh, they're totally getting this from the ideas of the Montauk Project. Montauk, near New York. Well, the myth behind it is a secret government facility that did a number of different experiments that have been very similar to Stranger Things. Like they have the Aurora chair as one of the mythologies. And I say that as mythology because there's no evidence to totally prove the Montauk Project ever existed. You had Al Bielek and his deal and stories coming from it, and others who've come out talked about the Montauk facility. But the rumors are, or the conspiracy theory, is that the government had a facility where they would test different time travel, for one. I'm trying to think of the gentleman more modern day, very similar to Al Bielek's stories about time travel. I can't think of his name at the moment. He's a lawyer. Has got a lot of stuff out there about it. But either way, this whole Montauk project revolved around the ability to open portals, but you needed the human element to open the portal. Mm. And one of the stories is that one child opened a portal and a monster came through, basically, something from another realm, and some people died. And that's one of the classic mythologies of the Montauk Facility Project, or whatever you want to say. And now you have like the Stranger Things kind of emulating that in their storylines of opening this portal to another dimension and creatures coming through. Or puppet. You said puppet master, and that last season, not to spoil anything, there's a puppet master basically. When you said that, I was like, that's totally Stranger Things. But the whole idea is that there is another dimension we can open up, but the element we need isn't some machine to do it.
Mhm.
It's the human consciousness.
Well, we're probably more than we think we've been told.
Right.
Yeah, are you familiar with the spoon bending phenomenon?
Like what's his name?
Uri Geller.
Uri Geller. Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah.
So, I had my own experience doing that.
I did too.
Did you?
Yeah.
And were you able to have the metal change its,
I did the live. Remember the Uri Geller live special?
No, but
he had a live special on TV, and I was there with my parents and that. I tried to do the spoon thing. It felt like the spoon got warm because they were doing that live, but they did the clock stop your watch thing live, and I had a watch, and it did stop during his live thing. So I've always been interested in Uri Geller ever since then. I was a kid when he had that live special.
So anyhow, I had a knife, a nice solid knife, and I was going through this procedure with somebody who was doing it, and all of a sudden, you'd say the metal, the strong metal quality shifted to something that was like putty, and I could just wrap it around. I could show it to you right now if I had a camera. And so I asked John Alexander, who was doing that psychokinesis, right, DK? Is that real? And he said, absolutely, it's real. And he said, we used it to test certain people when were going to go into the CIA or do clandestine stuff, and if they could do it and accept it. They said some of them could do it, but they wouldn't accept that it actually happened. They were in such a state of denial that those people became very valuable because they had a certain sort of ability and trainability, a capability that they could train. So I said to him, well, what's going on there? And I think there's something classified he wasn't going to tell me, but he did say it has something to do with information changing something at the more fundamental level, at the atomic level. So there's something about this information stuff that's very powerful that we're missing in general as us three of us sitting here right now, that some people know about, because also the whole time there's a lot of talk now of time travel, informational time travel as opposed to physical time travel, which there's a lot of study and if I understand correctly, research being done right now.
That's the thing is, if humans have the ability to tap into, be a part of this factor, and we have ability to open dimensions to other universes, that would be something you'd want to keep classified. I mean, we talked about this with remote viewing. If they have the ability, people have the ability to remote view. There'd be a number of reasons why you wouldn't want the general public to know the military is using that. One, you don't want your enemies to know you're using that. But two, you don't want the general public getting this ability and be able to peer into your secrets. There's Uri Geller said he's worked with the CIA. You have you have what they did, with the remote viewing projects that's, the government admitted to. Then shut down, but I still think it's going on. We are definitely at some aspect of our military. There's a lot of evidence to show that they've explored the realms of consciousness and what human consciousness can do, what our innate and human abilities, telekinetic wise, can do. I mean, the Russians did. We've seen the evidence come out of Russia. There's definitely an aspect of interest into this field that our government knows or has some knowledge about. We do have another caller I want to get to. 608 area code. Who do we got? Hello, you're on the line.
Sorry about that. Hey, it's Tyler.
Oh, I was hoping you would call
Tyler.
in. I was hoping you would call in. This is somebody who might have seen a dogman.
And I'm not the only witness to it,
No,
because my then at the time girlfriend was driving. Long story short, I told
Go
the
ahead.
story many times, and back to the comment which you gentlemen said tonight about, because I see Bigfoot and stickers on people's cars, especially in this town called Elkhorn, Wisconsin. And
Yeah,
I always ask. I have to. I'm curious because after a while, he had a guest on that was talking about this area, and I haven't talked about it.
He's not hearing me.
And I'm like, wow, she's talking about this area. I'm not crazy. And it feels great. I know what, and I can kind of sleep a little bit better. I mean, once in a blue moon, though, I will have a Dogman dream, whether it be him chasing me.
He doesn't hear me.
Can you?
I'm trying to get you to stop a second. Go ahead and tell them, this experience, because I mean, yes, you've said it on the show before, but it's been a while. And these guys, I'd like to hear about your what you saw.
All right, so and I was having when it was late at night and we were driving down 14, which is the known spot to see things around this area. And it's called there's a road near there. It's called Weary Road, and it is legendary about him. And I kind of had this feeling, this always watching this area as a kid, and we're just driving down the road. And I just had this feeling like, man, this something don't feel right. All of a sudden, I look over the corner of my eye, and I see a dog running, and it's huge. And she drives a truck, and it was up to the lights. And we didn't hear no thud, no nothing. She swerved onto the other side of this road, and we get out, and there is nothing there. Nothing. There was a glow to it. It looked like a dirty, dirty dog. Like, it was the nastiest looking thing I ever seen. It's scary.
So you're not the only person that's reported seeing the dog man or the beast of Bray Road near Elkhorn. That's where we were doing our investigation, for sure. And Lee Hempel, the guy who owns the property, has a trail cam picture of the beast that's pretty darn good. It's as good as anything I've ever seen, but he's not sharing it with the public right now.
I'd love to see it.
And you ask the people around there and investigate this too. When you're around this area, that I put 2 and 2 together. There's Indian mounds all around that area. So I'm assuming the reason why we're seeing Dogman in that area is because they are protecting something, protecting whatever burial grounds is in that area.
We've talked about a lot of the sightings of Dogman seem to be around graveyard, burial ground, Indian mound areas that do seem to be burial areas of some kind.
And you can only see them and you can only see like these. There's a in Fort Atkinson. Across the river, you can there's Indian mounds right in the neighborhood, and the only way you can see these animals is from the sky, man.
Yeah. Well, Tyler, do you have any other questions?
Yeah. So that's crazy. That so what's the craziest experience with Weary Road that you've had?
You asking me?
Yeah, he's asking what was the craziest experience you had when you were out there at Elkhorn?
Well, they were all crazy, but but for me, seeing that creature looking at us, and just not moving. I mean,
you said the head turned, right? You saw you could see the eyes and head turn.
The head turned, and it had an elongated body. If it stood up, it would probably be 2.5, 3 feet tall.
Yeah, it wasn't as big as like the 7-foot tall Dogman reports.
No, Lee, the owner, has 3 sets of prints of different sizes. One would match the size of this creature. And if you look at his pictures, which I'm sure he'd be happy to show you, you can see the prints are unique. They don't match up to any known animal.
Right.
And he's seen it on all 4s as well as standing upright.
How big was the one you saw, Tyler? How big do you think it was?
I would say 7.5 foot, maybe, like the size of a Great Dane, maybe bigger.
Well, Great Dane's bigger than that.
Those, yeah, they stretch out big. I mean, it was
a Great Dane's not that big. I'd say it's big. That's bigger than a Great Dane.
Yeah, I mean, it was huge. It was up to the lights, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say it was about 7 foot.
Wow. So there's different. I mean,
Taller than my dad.
Yeah, but that's a lot of people do report the bigger size ones, and then there's some people that see the smaller size ones. I mean, we had a few weeks ago was the one by the fence that everybody was passing around. It looked more like a fox man than a dog man, but that thing couldn't have been very big. Different varying sizes in the descriptions. Definitely, I've heard of with dog men too. It seems like
What if that was the chupacabra or whatever?
the digicabra.
Like a
I don't know.
chupacabra.
Well, Tyler, I was hoping you would call in tonight and share that story. I loved it when we had Linda Godfrey on. That was the guest she called in to share that experience. But thank you for calling in again.
I've been working my tail off, so I've been having to watch it the next day. So
I was hoping you were. I was really hoping you were tuning in tonight to call in and share that experience. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for allowing me on and having these guests always coming on while people like me not think we're not too crazy, but everybody else around me thinks so.
No, I know you're not, Tyler. Well, thank you, bud. You have a great night.
Later.
But yeah, we had Linda Godfrey on. He called in with that. She's like, please email me. I want to get the whole description and everything. And you would, the different sizes of like the dogmen reported is interesting. Is this different? Different things coming through, or does it change its shape? Like I said, these things could be reacting to us and taking on a form that best suits. It's like choose the form of your destructor in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I just always wondered if these things are somehow reacting to our inner thoughts or archetypes or whatever.
Yeah, that was one of the possibilities I suggested. The three results. One was it's a product of your mind. It's a kind of illusion created by your mind or your brain. And the other is it's a kind of illusion created by something else, and the other that you're really seeing a dog like that.
Yeah. I don't want to say it's an illusion. I think it's something really there. And like I said, I described it like the Harry Potter's Bogart, the thing in the closet. It changes shape to what you appear, but it's something real. It's just the way it reacts to us. It's its way it communicates with us by changing form. Go back to the Native American shapeshifter stories. There's a lot of this within cultures around the world of some kind of entity or force, something spiritual interacting with us that changes its form.
Yeah, I haven't personally seen that happen, but I've had people tell me about it. They've seen, for example, Bigfoot change shapes, merge into a tree, things like that, which would be another physical change itself. But I think all these things, in some way, these anomalous events are there to wake us up in some way, to say the world is more than we think, or we are more than we think we are. That they're calling cards, they're wake up cards.
I had go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was thinking, Jason, this goes back to the point that you made that the human element is present in all of these experiences. So we can, I think if science tried to create a machine to recreate these experiences, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
But the human element brings in that ephemeral idea of consciousness, or the mind for that matter, that we really don't have a great handle on, that possesses an incredible amount of power. So the human element comes into this, and you have a dog man. Some people see it as a 3-foot fox. Some people see it as a Great Dane or a wolf or something. Somebody sees a Bigfoot as a hairy creature. Somebody else sees Bigfoot as a bright light, or transforms into a blue light that then disappears. This is the human element that, as Ron was saying, this is an anomalous event that opens us up to something greater.
I had a guest on, Chad and Alta Dillard, years ago. Twice had them on. They wrote a book called Orbducted, where Chad and Alta and a friend were abducted by a blue glowing orb. I mean, a huge one. But they didn't see a ship or anything. It was just a blue orb that took them in. And inside it was like a ship, but outside it was a big blue glowing orb. And they had, of course, memory loss and weird experiences. And it's incredible experience they had. But I've always been fascinated. One reason I had them on with these orbs that people see, ghost lights or whatever, and then you hear about Bigfoot, literally walking into one of these things and flying away. These orbs fly away, or experiences where people have, and it makes you wonder. You get down to the, aliens and advanced technology. I mean, I'm a Doctor Who fan. The Time Lords could bend time and space, and they could make a ship look like a police box. A spaceship doesn't have to even look like a spaceship. If they could really bend reality or time or interdimensional, a spaceship could be just a glowing little light. It could change size and dimension. It's bigger on the inside. When you get into the a very advanced technology, what was the saying by the famous author? It appears like magic. What was that? Who's
Arthur C. Clarke.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
Arthur C. Clarke.
Arthur C. Clarke. Thank you. Yes. Anything that advanced would appear as magic.
Right. Any sufficiently advanced technology would appear as magic.
And what would a blue glowing orb that can take a Bigfoot or abduct people appear to us as like something crazy, supernatural magic?
So, Ron, here's where you should talk about the phenomenon at Site 2 in Bailey, where the three individuals saw the blue orb and the Bigfoot creature.
Yeah, I just came back from the third annual Bigfoot weekend in Bailey, Colorado. It's a small mountain town, about 40 miles west of Denver, and three guys were out on what they call the night ops, where they're trying to experience Bigfoot.
Right.
And one was a Native American, and the other two were pretty ordinary people in some way. And they all had a slightly different experience of something, but two of them actually took pictures of what they saw, and one could easily be called, a light object out of focus, right?
Yeah.
But the other one, probably the least experienced of them all, had this picture that he took that had this incredible structure of the same orb that they had seen, that all three of them had seen.
And this was a light they were seeing with their eyes, right, in the woods?
That's right.
Right.
And two of the people said they saw something like a Bigfoot either come out of it or be next to it at the same time. Yeah. And the Native American who didn't have a camera but was singing songs, all of a sudden got sizzled and couldn't remember anything anymore.
Right.
So those are very different reactions to the one who shot the out of kind of, that's probably an out of focus image, was the most experienced in this area and had other paranormal encounters. The other two had not. So but they all saw something. They all saw something, but it was all kind of different for each of them at the same time, and the effect was different. And as I said, the one got a picture of, which could be one of the better pictures of an orb because it had all the structure. And then I've seen other shows where other people have captured that same structure, particularly Elizondo's series on the relationship between nukes and UAPs. Right. Some people have captured similar structures that were UAPs, but the one that Art filmed was not up in the sky. It was basically
in the woods.
In the woods, yes.
Yeah, but that's what ghost lights people see in certain locations. They'll see them in the mountains or the woods, not way up in the sky sometimes. They'll actually see them in the woods, coming from the woods. And it's reported in Native American cultures. It's a phenomenon that's been with us for a long time. We got another phone call. Let me take them now because we go to commercial break in about 6-7 minutes. So let me see what we got. Oh, we got Dan. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Good. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah. How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Excellent. Thanks.
But I had a little, I've never heard it quite put as the sizzle, but that's a good way to describe it. But yeah, because I had a tragic event occur recently, and I get repressed memories from that, but it's also taken me back to like my childhood and, up to, a major UFO experience I had that it's almost during life, it's been like, no, because my partner at the time didn't remember, even though she was right there with me. And I didn't remember a whole lot of it till, after this whole event came around, it took me back there and I got more details, but it's still like an incomplete movie that's out of order. But I didn't know if you guys did any, had people with memory repression that all of a sudden remembered, something that had happened to them a little more clear.
No, I haven't come across somebody who.
Well, what I think of is Mario Woods. Is it Mario Woods? Is the name?
Mario, yeah.
Yeah, that he had some incredible encounters where it seems like his memory was being jumbled up a little bit.
Especially his partner, who was
that was like frozen to the wheel.
Frozen to the wheel, yeah. I have no personal experiences myself along those lines, nor any friends. Though I had a friend recently talk about an issue like that, and what he described, he's tried to think of as I mentioned earlier, global amnesia. But every way he described what happened to him, he was sizzled. Yeah. And he was out in the woods with a bunch of friends, and his friends were completely unaffected, but his mind was taken by something, and to this day he doesn't know what.
And
that's my experience.
My wife at the time told me, "Oh, you must have been dreaming or whatever." And I'm like, well, I don't, it's because I could see it and feel it. The way it sounded, it was loud, kind of like maybe 6 helicopters that once just fired off. I mean, it just shook the whole. I was in a trailer at the time, but yeah.
You're breaking up a little bit.
You often hear about them being oh, sorry.
Sorry.
But you often hear about them being silent, but this was so loud, I say it, like a bunch of helicopters just blazing.
But it wasn't helicopters you were seeing.
It was not, no. That's the closest I can come to the sound. Just maybe some Tomahawk helicopters, the loud blades. But, I mean, what it was a triangle, and it was below the ground, and it was my wife at the time who woke me up and said, "Hey, something's going on," and I could see light coming through the window, right? Then I looked up and I seen this craft just spinning slowly right across my view. I could hear that sound. You could, triangle, you could see it very clear, at like 45-degree angle going up each side. The center was concave. There was like 6 lights around the center, and then a real dim, super dim, purpley, bush red, purpley in the middle. Then you had the 3 bigger lights on each side. And it, like I say, it was really late at night, and it illuminated that whole area, And you heard that sound, and I seen it wrap around and start coming towards our trailer. And then it's like the story kind of ends there, and I hear knocks at the door, and my wife's like, "Someone's at the door," And I don't remember answering the door. And then the next thing I remember is being outside the trailer looking up. And I see it, it's much higher in the sky. It's just cruising off, kind of making that same sound. But there's parts missing,
Yeah.
The most important parts, probably.
So what did that mean to you? What has it meant to you to have had this experience?
Well, it means a lot now because after this whole event, I've remembered a lot more, from my childhood, and things, guess continue to get weird for me. But it's, something like that changes your life, the way you look at things, because when you see it, something like that physically, it's
makes you think anything's possible.
It's so shocking to your mind that maybe it causes a little sizzle. I don't.
Well, hey, we got to go to commercial break, Dan. Thank you for calling in tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
All right, man.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. We got about half an hour left to show, guys. We got to go to our last commercial break. We'll come back. We'll still take your phone calls, but continue this. The discussion is, how is Bigfoot and aliens or interdimensional? Are they both interdimensional? Are they connected? That's what we're talking about tonight. Bigfoot alien connection revisited is the book, but we're going to go to our last commercial break and be back.
Intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're gonna go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college, I've got a family to support, and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
You could accept
Are you
that
intrigued
the city
by
is headed for a
paranormal
disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr. Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff. Exactly. Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419 or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your hosts, Jason Bland.
Tonight's guests are Ron Meyer and Mark Reeder, authors of The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. There's also a documentary you can see, The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revealed. It's tied to all this. It's an excellent book. I just finished reading it. I highly recommend it. If you're anybody that's interested in weirdness of Skinwalker Ranch, possibility of Bigfoots are more than some biological creature, or alien abductions, or anything along these lines, this is a definitely good book for to pick up, to read. I read through it pretty much in 2 days. It was I was enthralled with the idea of it and a lot of stuff that they talk about. They even try to open up their own portal. We talked about that tonight. And that's what the thing. Is it the human consciousness that's making these experiences happening? Are we opening up the portals? Are we the gatekeepers? I don't know. But there is something weird and unusual to a reality we just don't understand yet. But I think we're waking up to it. I see more and more people waking up to these concepts of interdimensional, multiverse experiences of what we're going on. It's a lot of weirdness. Some of this stuff definitely goes over other people's heads, but I'm into it. I know you are if you're here. And our guests tonight are definitely the people to talk to about it. So let's go ahead and get right back to it. All right, let me make sure I got the phone lines back on. But you can call in. We only got a half an hour left of the show. Like I said, I don't have Rob here tonight, so I don't have the picture of the book up. But this is the book, everybody, we're talking about tonight, is The Bigfoot Alien Connection Revisited. I love this cover, guys. It's an awesome cover. And I love the calls tonight, you know, the experiences of Tyler and Dan that they've had. I've had guests on. It makes me think a lot of their experiences. Like I said, I had Terry Lovelace on. He had his incident in Devil's Den, Arkansas. He actually had an incident as an Air Force medic, him and his partner seeing a UFO above their nuclear facility at the Air Force base they were at. And you had a part of this book is Mario Woods. And his experiences are really interesting. I read in your bio description, you're working on a project with him?
With
Mario Woods?
Yeah, we did a short film on him that's 40 minutes that you can get on YouTube right now.
Oh, I want to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he and Terry are buds.
Yeah, Mario Woods' incident is fascinating, just like Terry's. And you know, the like you said, there was him and another person very similar to Terry's, but that person was totally frozen to their wheel as they're seeing this. What was it, like a giant orb-like phenomenon in the sky?
Yeah, he saw it first as sort of a light phenomenon, but eventually he saw it as a pretty solid structure that was hovering over the launch silo of, you know, one of the where the missiles were embedded in the ground, and he actually had as he describes it earlier, an interaction with flashing lights with it, and then somehow or another he got really sizzled. He describes how he sort of got taken up into at least that was his sensation, into the craft, and but it was unclear exactly what happened there. But he ended up, I think, 20 miles away from the silo. He had no idea how he got there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they're interested in a nuclear facility. I would say for aliens, if they're living here, then they'd have an interest in it because we could totally destroy our planet. That's always been the prospect of why they might be interested in our nuclear facilities.
So there's a really clear case where a number of these launch capabilities were taken offline in 2010. That was, you know, highly reported. It went up the channel to Barack Obama, and multiple people at that particular time saw UAPs over the missile field, and that's probably the best documented one that everybody knows about.
And why didn't that come up? They brought up in the UFO hearings about the one that happened at Maelstrom back in the 60s of them shutting down the UFOs. And I've always wondered, why didn't that particular incident in 2010 get brought up at the hearings too?
I don't know. It's a bit of a mystery.
It's a big security risk, you would think. I do have I want to see, I have Shelley, the guest mentioned offered to speak of a conversation with John B. Alexander. And she wanted to know more about your conversation with him.
He was very open. He was kind of in a mood. He's gotten to an age where he wants to tell his story as best he can without, you know, violating his NDAs. Yeah, but he was. I thought the thing he's most interested in is psychokinesis, and I mentioned, you know, that in reference to spoon bending. And he was involved in the lead investigator with it was made into a movie called The Men Who Stare at Goats.
Goats, yeah.
And he was involved in that, and he described when they actually did kill the goats. Some people with their mind, and when they did an autopsy, it was like a bullet went through the creature, through the goat, but there were no enter or exit wounds.
That's interesting. I would have think it'd been like, oh, their heart stopped or something like that, but it was like they found a bullet, or it looked like a bullet entry, but there was no entrance or exit wound.
That's right. It was like a bullet wound through the body.
Well, it was soldiers, right, doing this experiment. Soldiers, they trained to do this PSI telekinesis stuff, and their brains would be, to kill something, you shoot it.
That's probably true. Yeah, he was. He did. And of course, he was there early on at Skinwalker Ranch with the first investigation, when it was a joint operation between Bigelow. By the way, he told me the reason why Bigelow sold the ranch. He was. You know what the hitchhiker effect is?
No, tell me.
It's when you go to one of these paranormal spots and something happens.
Follows you home? Well, that I know of, yes.
Yeah, that's called the hitchhiker
effect.
So that was happening with Bigelow. He'd bring it home, and his wife said, "That's enough of that." So he said, "Okay."
Well, you know, his new research is into the afterlife, the new stuff that he's funding.
Yeah, and near-death experiences.
But maybe that something like that experience opened him up to the idea of other realms. I mean, because he's been interested in UFO technology, obviously, and back engineering it. But obviously, the Skinwalker Ranch thing would maybe opened him up to the ideas of other realms and possibilities, and the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I have an opportunity to talk to him, but I will probably do that one of these days.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, that's one person I'd love to talk to is Bigelow.
Yeah, yeah. Alexander was quite amazing. He's very sharp. He's been everywhere. He's been involved. His wife is a shaman type woman,
Yeah.
sensitive. Um, particularly had a unique experience with Chris Bledsoe down in North Carolina. So he's well rounded in all. It's clear that for him it's clear that there's something there, but it's like everybody else. You can't put your finger on it. You can't really explain it. Maybe we'd have to keep it there for a while as just plain unexplainable until as again, he refers back to information as somehow the critical component that's missing in all this.
Well, they were trying to get them to kill goats with their mind, and in Stranger Things, that's like the premise of what they're doing with these children is trying to teach them how to telekinetically kill somebody from a distance. These children they have in a secret government facility in the storyline, and then you see like what the Russians did with psychokinesis. They had the famous lady, a Russian lady, who would like try to stop the frog's heart in experiments and did.
But on the other side, it's the same phenomena with healing, spiritual healings, Reiki, Joe Ray, other forms of prayer where people are miraculously healed. So it has a very positive side to it too.
Yeah, it can be used for good or bad. It can be used for good or bad. The same thing. But it's like the Force to Star Wars, the dark side, and then there's the light side. They can definitely use the dark side. My question is, do you think the military is still experimenting in this field?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I believe so too. Why would you give it up? Like if it's producing results. I mean, the remote viewing, the congressional hearings for that were a joke. The real story, remote viewing, they were producing real results. Would the government give up on that? I don't think so.
No, I've talked to people that are quite good at it, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got the ultimate intelligence tool there. If it can really work, which a lot of evidence showed it can, there's no way that they'd give that up. And if they have the ability to use telekinetic abilities to affect things, and that's ability, you sure as heck they would research if they found evidence that it exists.
Yes, probably.
Now,
at least you'd probably believe that other governments or other institutions are doing the same thing, doing the same research.
Now, you talk about portals. Another thing with the government and the mythology is, and I've had guests on to talk about this, is when we went into Iraq, that we went there, not only, we actually sent teams in to recover artifacts and that, but that the rumor is that we went there because there was a portal, an ancient portal there, like a Stargate. These things these rumors have been flying around for years about different government experiments with Stargates and that, but this is a more modern one. Of our government and military be involved in an ancient Stargate or a portal. If portals exist, there's a lot of evidence to show that other cultures believed in them too in their ancient past and had access to them.
And I think it just means that this is a unique place where this is possible, right?
Yeah.
In a given amount of time, it's not.
What I got Shelley also. She wanted. Well, I guess what she wanted to know about Dr. Alexander is, can you please ask about EMF weapons and mind control as to Dr. Alexander conversations? Did he ever discuss any of that with you?
I mean, control. What does she mean by mind? That I would control another mind?
Yeah, or using EMF to mess with somebody's mind.
Well, I think killing a goat is a pretty profound example of something like that. If you can do that, you can do quite a bit of other things. We play around in martial arts, and both Mark and I, we play in exotic martial arts, and we can do some of that stuff.
Like a Qigong kind of thing where they use like the Force. I just like to say it's like the Star Wars Force, like push somebody down.
Yeah, and it's it's sort of the opposite of what you think. It's not
really.
It's not force in the normal sense of high pressure. It's called effortless power that we put
Right.
in. Right, Mark?
Yeah, and I think you're also talking about something. What Ron's talking about, our practice is something much more benign than trying to kill a goat or stop a frog's heart. It's really more of a sense of the. This is so prosaic sounding, where the ego gets out of the way and you're actually linked directly to the other person in such a way that you're not controlling them so much as you're allowing them to think that they're getting their way, but they're really being directed in a way that
These are not the droids you're looking
yeah,
for.
in a sense, it's almost that strange. But I want to go back, and I think this tangentially applies. You were talking about gatekeepers to these portals, and when you think about it, there have been gatekeepers throughout history.
Cerberus.
Yeah, these are people who have a connection to that other dimension. And I had a Supi teacher who was a healer. She talked about herself as a gatekeeper, but she said, "I don't heal you. I'm the gatekeeper. I open the gate. I'm a funnel. I'm a channel.
Or
I'm
conduit.
a conduit, and that's what heals you." She said, "I have to get out of the way." And when Ron is talking about big space or the flow state or this ability to use effortless power, it's basically getting out of the way so that it happens.
Again, it's much like Jedi and the Force. I'm saying that's what, that's what I always think of when we get into these kind of the martial arts kind of, I mean, this ability to tap into something that is beyond yourself.
Yes.
I mean, what you're talking about there, like I said, is like these are not the droids you're looking for. You're like trying to Jedi mind trick somebody.
Yeah, and in a sense, that is what it is. Ron and I both had experiences with our practice where somebody flows around you in this incredible spinning move, and they fall down on the ground, and you honestly can't say how that happened. It wasn't like we spun them around and threw them to the ground. It's almost as though they did it themselves.
That's because we didn't do it. The I didn't do it.
Stop punching yourself right now.
Well put, Jason.
But but it is. But again, to do that, you're tapping into something that is a will or a force or a power. Which I think there's been different cultures of trying to tap into this. The ability. I mean, or to levitate yourself, or to do things beyond the human perception of ability.
Yes.
It's more like removing obstacles we've placed on ourselves. It's a process of less rather than
size
more.
matters not. Again, another Star Wars. I can't open a huge Star Wars. I'm a geek. But I put on my, like I've said, I put on my census. I've done the census, and I said, "What's your religion?" Jediism. Thank you. Because when as a kid, it made more sense to me than most organized religions.
So, are you actually a part of that religion?
No, I jokingly put it that way, but I might as well be for the things I believe.
As far as I know, there is such a thing.
There is. Oh yeah, I belong to a group on Facebook that basically is committed to Jediism. I keep myself open to all ideas. But the closest thing I tell people that really I feel, religiously, spiritually, is the Jedi code or the way, and the ideas and beliefs behind the Force is more practical to me than a church or a religious organization. Yes. Nothing against that, but that's just for me.
It's interesting to have these experiences and one cannot explain them, but yet when we do this martial arts stuff, it's as plain as day it's happening, but we just can't explain. But we know it's a letting go process. It's a removal of something. I think you've heard that there's now a belief that the brain creates a filter for us. I think I mentioned it earlier, and that when people have these anomalous experiences, near death and so on, whatever that filter is taken down. It's removed. It's an old operating system that's kicked offline, and the new one comes on, and that's where all the fun and juice is in a certain sense. So it's a letting go. It's a removing process.
Or it's the mental matrix we built around ourselves from
Yes.
society. You know, that's it shut you down as a kid in your imagination, your ideas what reality is. You're given that by society that doesn't accept these principles.
And in some way, you really need that to do okay in life, right?
Right, or they'll think you're crazy.
Yes. So that's my personal experience, and that's how I would best explain it in terms of as far as it relates to us as and how we've imposed limitations on us, and when we move these capabilities come online, and we're able to see and do things we never thought we could do, like bend a spoon with our mind, as it were.
Mark, do you have any last thoughts? Before we got about 10 minutes left.
Well, I was thinking about what you and Ron are talking about, and history is ripe with these individuals, whether it's Robert Fulton inventing the steamboat, or Tesla and his Tesla coil, Eastman and Kodak film, and
look at the development of the phone.
Yeah,
there was multiple people developing that separately from each other.
Marconi
at the same time.
Yeah, and then Marconi and radio waves and all of these.
Yeah.
These people are tapping into something that is much greater than themselves. Faraday, the whole, all of the equations for electromagnetic fields, the Scottish
Maxwell.
He actually didn't understand them. He just came up with them because they worked. So history is rife with these individuals who are gatekeepers, if you want to call them gatekeepers, people who are able to tap into a dimension different than ours, whether it's the invisible college that Ron mentioned, which is really a fascinating idea. The Illuminati, or whatever you want to call it, these people are able to tap into something that's greater than themselves, getting their ego out of the way for whatever amount of time it takes, and download this information. And as you mentioned, it could be used for good or evil, but it's there.
I saw this comment. Sorry, Shell, I was getting into it. Sorry for repeating it, but Alexander headed up Project Jedi within the CIA, and I've heard something about that before too. Project Jedi, which always got my fascination.
Yeah,
but
you kind of wonder where George Lucas came up with the whole idea of the Jedi.
Yeah, maybe he was downloading it. There's a little part of me that hopes that, right? There really is some galaxy far, far away that there's Jedi, and hopefully no Empire, but probably. But the idea of the Force, my kids ask me questions all the time, and I start telling them my theories of the life and spirituality, and they're like, "Well, that sounds like Star Wars." I'm like, "Well, there's a reason." Can't help it. There's, I think George Lucas was tapping in a lot of things, and other people too. I mean, you get into Steven Spielberg, partner of his, and stuff that he's done with, like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. There seems to be either purposely or maybe just the collective consciousness of these creative people that come up with, stories that reflect reality. There's more truth to it than you get from your mainstream media, probably.
So one of the neat things is being in the media. We're not hamstrung by the academy or structured religions. We can go out there and do this, which is kind of there's a freedom there. I mean, authors have the same freedom, but I think media right now, which is the movie I mentioned that we talked about before, it's got over like 7 million views, across multiple streaming platforms. That's blew me away.
Yeah. Well, I saw somebody comment on your Bigfoot alien connection revealed. Somebody made a comment. I think the first comment I see on there is perfect thing for 3 a.m. It's like me and my wife go to sleep to Ancient Aliens. I think people at night get down, lay down, and there's more interest. I mean, there's now channels on the Roku channel all dedicated to just paranormal 24/7, UFO 24/7. That's all the channel is dedicated. There is an interest in people's minds opening to these subjects.
Something's happening. It's changing.
Yeah.
For sure. And we're part
mean-
of it now, right now, at this moment.
I mean, 20 plus years I've worked in retail. I've had a lot of people know I do this show. I've done it for 7 years. But just more in the last year or two, I had I call them kids, but they're 20-somethings, or ask me questions all the time. Be it UFOs, ghosts, or whatever. They're interested, which I'd get no interest just 4 or 5 years ago.
By the way, I like your set.
What, my background?
Yeah, it's cool.
I'll tell you the reason. I know the audience has heard it. The reason I have the green glow right back there, my first paranormal encounter I can remember was with my cousin. I was 5 years old, and we saw a green floating head fly through the room, and it glowed much like this green globish stuff back here. But it looked like the Wicked Witch of the West, the face from Wizard of Oz. Scared the crap out of me. But ever since then, that woke me up at the age of 5 because I never forgot it. My cousin thought it was a dream. Years later, I brought it up to him, and he got really pale. He's like, "That wasn't a dream?" I'm like, "No, I was there with you." But that encounter I never forgot and made me think anything's possible. At 5 years old, my realization then is that if that's real, like everybody told me none of that stuff is real, they're wrong, and anything's possible. All bets are off.
That's it, isn't it? And
Yeah.
it's all mysterious.
Yeah.
And that's what got me fascinated with our worlds interacting, because this was something that literally popped through a wall. So I knew matter is not what we think it is.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was going to say we're at a point in the development of humanity where religions that are thousands of years old and science, the scientific method, which is 500 years old, can no longer properly address these issues.
They can't put it in the box.
Yeah, they can't. The box says, "I'm sorry, you can't contain me." Bang, and people are now saying, "Okay, I'm not going to not adhere to religious principles or scientific method, but I want to step outside the box and find a different means to explain this."
Yeah, I agree. I talk about this book all the time on my show. As a book I read years ago that I stole from my dad, Edmit Goswami, if I'm saying that right, Self-Aware Universe. And the basic principle of the whole book is that for quantum physics to move forward, it needs to revisit the ideas of ancient religions and spiritual ideas and altered states of consciousness and what consciousness is, because it is connected to the whole mechanics of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And a wonderful book from the 90s, I believe, is when it came out, or earlier. But Self-Aware Universe changed my thoughts on what reality could be.
I'm writing this down.
If I remember right,
I haven't read it.
Goswami, Self-Aware Universe. It's hard to get a copy of it anymore, I think, but it was. I have it still somewhere on my bookshelves. It was my dad's. Thanks, Dad. I took that book from you. He doesn't know. But it's just my perspective on reality is so different than most of the people I meet, because I try to keep my perspective open. The basic premise is that anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who am I to judge a person's experience? What happened to them, be it seeing a dogman or chupacabra or Bigfoot or aliens or abduction? Who am I to judge? I have no idea what reality really is. I'm trying to discover it every day.
So I have to thank Ron personally on this, because when we started this project, I was strictly in that skeptic role of saying, yeah, this is all hogwash. By the time we finished this project 6 weeks later, Ron had, I talk about Ron being my mentor. He's a mentor in many things. He's brought me to this area, to this understanding where I'm trying to be like you, Jason, where I want to be open to all of these possibilities and not just discount somebody's experience, but to say, okay, this is an experience you had.
Yeah, that's why I do this show, is to give people a platform to call in and tell their experiences or interview, like you guys have tonight. You've been awesome guests. This is a subject I wish I could Bigfoot alone, I don't get enough guests just to talk about Bigfoot. It's hard to find reputable guests to talk about that, but I've always wanted to talk about the Bigfoot alien connection. And because it's something that just comes up on a number of different topics, is the idea that, all these things, like I said, I call the show Paranormal Soup for a reason, are connected in some way.
That's our theory too right now.
Now, before we go, we want to make sure you guys get out all your website information or contact information or anything you want to get out there to the audience before we leave tonight.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is that you mentioned the book cover and how good it is. And
yeah, it's awesome.
That's thanks to our editor Alex. He really put everything together for us.
Yeah, it's a really cool book cover. I have to say, it's really cool. It's definitely well done. But yeah, you can get this definitely on Amazon, the book. But anywhere else, any recommendations for people or what you want them to check out for you guys or upcoming?
I think you can get it on all the usual places: Barnes and Noble, Kobo, iTunes.
I want to go check out. I'm definitely going to, after this, check out that Mario. You said the Mario Woods thing's up for free on the internet?
Yeah, it is on YouTube.
All right, I have to find that because I've always been interested in the Mario Woods thing. I know Terry's mentioned him, and I think his experience is incredible. So I love that part of the book too.
He's a very, very honest person, and he's held this secret for a long time because that's what he was told to do.
And like you mentioned in the book, there's there's so many people out there that have kept their experiences secret because of ridicule or whatever, not even understanding. Like I've had my experience I don't talk about a lot with a camping trip that I felt I might have been abducted. I don't know. It's hard for me to talk about because I don't understand it and the memories are jumbled and it's hard to tell somebody that an experience that you can't even describe yourself. So there's a lot of people out there every day having these unusual experiences that nobody hears and they don't tell a soul. And as the more we talk, the more you guys do your work, hopefully we'll get more of those people to open up about these experiences. And the only way we're going to learn about this is by sharing notes. So again, thank you guys so much for being on the show tonight. I'd love to hear more of your future projects and love to have you guys back on again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
You're very good.
All right. That's it for the show, guys. We will be back next Sunday with author Tom Riley to talk about ghost stories and myth of Oliver Cromwell. I don't have the book for this one yet. I don't know if he's going to get one to me, but I definitely can't wait to hear. I love good ghost stories. We'll talk about more of that. And, keep sharing the show out, guys. Tell people about Paranormal Soup, a place where it's open forum. The paranormal happens live every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. or 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Check us out and subscribe and follow on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We're on there. We're on the Paranormal Radio app. You can find us on there as a Paranormal Soup radio channel. You can listen every day to all the reruns on there. And don't forget, you can also donate on Patreon for the show. It does help pay the bills. You can always donate on Super Chat. John last week donated. Thank you so much, John. You can always donate every Sunday night on the Super Chat channel. It does help pay the bills. All right, guys, have a great night. See you next Sunday.